wish it were permanent. Okay. How's it, Dad? You good?
Do you live in St. Lucie, St. Peter, St. Thomas, or St. Joseph? If you do, the Prime Minister's office welcomes you to join the Prime Minister, members of the Cabinet, and senior public officers, along with special host Stetson Red Plastic Bag Wiltshire at the Alexandra School for the first Ideas Forum of 2026. Come, let's share ideas as we focus on 60 and 5, 60 years of independence and 5 years as a republic. What's the future you want for your Barbados, and how do we achieve it? How do we celebrate this milestone? Join us at Alexandra School on Wednesday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. and share your ideas. You may also submit your thoughts in advance to ideasforum@barbados.gov.bb or via WhatsApp at 256-4646. Come out, let's run the next leg of this national journey together.
Are you a loyal daughter or son? That is what I'm asking every nation. Do you guard your heritage as you should?
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Alexandra School for the first Ideas Forum of 2026. My name is Roy Morris, and I'm the Director of Citizen Engagement and Media Relations in the Prime Minister's Office. These town hall meetings are produced by the Prime Minister's Office. Welcome to the MPs who are here already. We're still waiting for the arrival of the MP for St. Lucie, the MP for St. Thomas, and the MP for St. Joseph. Tonight's meeting is for the benefit, first off, of the residents of those 4 parishes. And we are having the 4 of them together largely because ordinarily we would have gone with St. Lucie in January, St. Peter in February, St. Thomas in March, and this month should really be St. Joseph. But because of the late start, we are combining the first 4. So if you are from any of these 4 parishes, I welcome you to the Alexandra School and I invite you to be active participants. Now, if you are planning to make any kind of presentation tonight, you first need to go to the desk at the back of the room on my left. One of the 2 young ladies there from the Prime Minister's office will take some basic information from you, and they will give you a number. That number will determine the order in which you come to the mic, which is directly in front of you. Please remember that you are being streamed live, and when we stream live, it's not just to Barbados, but it is to the whole world. So you want to put your best face on. And remember as well, this is not the traditional Parish Speaks, but Ideas Forum. And the premise of it is that, yes, you will have your issues, and you are free to articulate them. But we also want you to articulate what you see as the possible solutions. So let's be positive tonight, even if there's something that is burning at your chest and you can't but say it. So we welcome frank discussion, but remember as well, offer your solutions. Prime Minister would have been chairing a meeting in Parliament. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Mr. Husbands is here, and he will go on WhatsApp and say, talk about would have. So the Prime Minister chaired a meeting in the Senate chamber that ended just after 6 o'clock. So she should be here shortly. In the meanwhile, the Deputy Prime Minister is taking the head table, and she is sharing the microphone with the most honorable red plastic bag, Stetson Wiltshire. And he is going to be your principal moderator for the evening. So I will hand over now to Deputy Prime Minister for her introductory remarks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Roy. Pleasant good evening to each and every one of you, and certainly to all of the persons who I know are listening online, both from Barbados and overseas. As Roy would have indicated, this is the second iteration of the Ideas Forum. We've come a long way from the Parish Speaks, which was very focused on each of the parishes being able to represent some of the challenges, the concerns that each of you may have had. And we've moved to an Ideas Forum, which has given people the opportunity to share their perspective on the ways in which a government can improve a lot of what it is doing. I can tell you that as a cabinet, we would have had prepared by the Prime Minister's office a paper recently, which would have collected a number of the ideas that have come out of the Ideas Forum. And with that paper, we've been able to take a look at some of the things that kept recurring across parishes, but those things will now inform a lot of the work that as ministers, we are able to do the deep diving now to be able to implement some of those things within the ministry. It may not be everything that people say that is able to be taken on board right away, but I think this administration has seen the benefit of consultation, of giving people an opportunity to tell us when we are going right, and obviously to also tell us when we are going wrong as well. And we believe that all ideas do not come from within the cabinet or from within the government itself, but that we give people the opportunity to give different perspectives on what they would like to see for Barbados. So as we are in 2026, getting ready to be able to celebrate 60 years of independence and 5 years as a republic, we as a cabinet, and certainly Prime Minister Motley has held a firm view that we need to continue to consult. Because we've won for 3 consecutive terms does not mean that we stop consulting, does not mean that we do not continue to take the ideas from the public of Barbados and as far afield as we need to, because there are Barbadians outside as well who have perspectives on what should be happening in Barbados. And we continue this Ideas Forum, as Roy said, in the spirit of being able to hear as ministers, as representatives, what you, the people of this country, feel about what is happening and what you would like to see, to share ideas and to comment on things that are happening. And I have the pleasure this evening, I am not here to sing. I feel when I sit next to Red Plastic Bag, Ms. Stetson Bilscher, that the only thing that I should be doing with the microphone is singing. But this evening, that will not happen. But it is my distinct pleasure to share the stage here with him. He needs no introduction. I think for most Barbadians and most people who have listened to this gentleman for many, many years, I think we all appreciate that he himself has given lots of ideas to the Barbadian landscape through his music, through his social commentary, through his groovy soca tunes, through his power soca songs. He has given to all of us different perspectives. When the country was sick, when the country is well, we have heard from the Red Plastic Bag. And I suspect from our earlier discussions that there is much life in Red Plastic Bag to give. And we are tonight going to, I think, see with the chairing of this particular Ideas Forum, another perspective being brought to the fore from this kind gentleman. So without further ado, I would like to hand over and allow you to give a warm welcome to none other than Red Plastic Bag.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. I want to welcome Ministers of Cabinet, members of Cabinet, and officials of the public service. My name is Stetson Wilshire, El Bolso Plastico Rojo. You can call me Bag, you can call me RPB. When I was asked to come here this evening, I got really excited because I'm an ideas person myself. I lived my entire life developing my thoughts and creating ideas to present what I want to present to the people of Barbados. And as we move into celebrating 60 years of independence and 5 years of being a republic, I think a forum like this is a wonderful opportunity to, for the powers that be to interface with the public. I was at the swearing-in of cabinet, and the Prime Minister made the comment that the highest office in the land is the citizenry, you, the people. And I found that rather profound. And I believe that if we hold steadfast to the belief that a country's greatest resource is its people, then a forum like this is even more important for us to tap into the resources of our people. I also want you who may think that your idea is small to remember the parable of the mustard seed in Matthew. That man that planted that very small seed and it grew to become a big tree that birds could perch on. So bring your ideas. You have an idea, you have a chance to be part of shaping the future that we want for ourselves, for our children, and for our children's children. My duty here this evening is simple. I'm just going to be coordinating how you present your ideas. I want to let you know that you need to be very concise and clear so that we can allow as many people as possible to table their ideas here this evening. But welcome all. We're going to have lots of good ideas, I'm sure. So with that said, we can begin.
Number 1, Harriet Griffith.
A pleasant good evening to my favorite Calypsonian. I honor you this evening. Madam Deputy Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to, there are 3 short ideas that I have. And the first one is the use of the Spikestown bus terminal. My solution for the Spikestown bus terminal is that it should be more than a hub for the Oisins bus, the Bathsheba Rock Hall, buses that leave that vicinity. I don't know if you all are aware of how many people gather at that bus stand 6 days a week. But when you leave work and you have to go there and wait for ZR, and the ZRs are done work, then you have to wait for a bus from Bridgetown. And there are buses sitting right there. I'm looking for some short-term buses. A bus can go to Boscobel, a bus can go to Indian Ground, a bus can go, and let's keep things going. Don't have to wait till a bus comes from town to pass through. So I think that we can look at that idea. And it will help alleviate the problems with the transportation system that we are having, especially in St. Peter.
Ms. Griffith, please let me interrupt you for a second. You travel by the bus, right?
Yes, please.
So talk us through what happens. The bus, you're saying that you're in Spikestown and you have to wait for a bus from town. Explain clearly so we understand what you're saying.
All right. My original route is the ZR. Perchance that I leave work late or I have to go outside of my work hours, you come to you're at Spikestown bus stand and you have to wait for a 7:45 bus or a quarter to this bus or a quarter to the next bus. And you have to wait, some you don't get it at all. And then you have to wait till 10 o'clock. Sometimes 10 o'clock you're at the bus stop and the bus stand sitting down waiting. Nobody says anything to you. And that becomes frustrating. So all I'm saying is that instead of having to wait for a bus from Bridgetown that may not come at all, you can use the short-term bus. I put it in short-term bus. Yeah? To run the short route, thank you. My next problem and the solution is the use of the community and resource centers. Now, there is a difference between the two. The resource centers are the ones with the computers, and the community centers are the ones without. I like working with my hands, and I would like to do some courses, but there are none in this area. They're all in Sears Court, Christchurch. And I'm not leaving Boscobel to go to Sears Court, Christchurch for a course in tiling that I believe that could happen down here. So we're looking to the use of the community centers for that. The last course, I think, was last year. I did an electrical installation course there. And since then, there has been none. no other courses has been held. There are about 3 or 4 community centers in St. Peter. And I think that all should be utilized. And my final problem and solution is that we form, I call them community committees. And the reason why I say that is, in my area, I live in Boscobel, and people want things done. A lot of people come to me, which I don't know why, but they come and they want something done, and I would have to call somebody that I know that I think could help. So if we have committees in each community, then it makes the job of our MP a little easier, because then he would have persons to liaise with that would know the runnings of that community. We would call them gatekeepers, right, Mr. Husbands? Yes, we can call them gatekeepers. So I think that would be necessary, and looking forward that we can have some groups. We can have some groups to work, that we can liaise with different agencies and stuff. There are a lot of elderly people in our communities that needs a lot of help. There are vulnerable people that needs a lot of help. And there are persons who can help, but they don't always help. So that's my little 2 bits for the time being. I thank you for the opportunity and the privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know that the bus issue is quite an issue, and I've heard that issue over and over. I believe that the bus system is a system that we really have to look at, and I thank you for that contribution.
So, Stepson, I just wanted to add to that, as a former Minister of Transport and Works, I think that comment or the response to that should certainly, it can shed some light in terms of the individual who spoke. I think one of the things that the government has tried to do is to bring in more buses. And by bringing in additional buses, it was intended that we would rationalize a lot of the routes. So, with respect to being able to have, whether it's more activities or to be able to have shorter routes being able to be put in place, I think the intention always, once we brought the additional buses at the end of December, is that we would be in a position to have not just the transport board buses, but also to be able to reorganize the system under a mass transit authority that would allow us to better schedule the buses for the general public. I know that Senior Minister Humphrey has been working, now that he's taken up the portfolio, has been working on continuing the work that was started. And so I regret that we've not been able to have that continuity because of the campaign, and obviously we went straight into estimates. But I do know that the reason we brought the buses was to address this problem of the short routes, as well as to make sure that we did not have the amount of low periods where the buses were not operating. That's one. As it relates to the issue of the community centers, one of the things, and I'm sorry that Minister Griffith isn't here, but one of the things that I know he has been working on is the creation of center management committees. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, but I know across all 30 constituencies, we've been asked to simply identify persons too in the community that we could ask to serve on those committees. And some of them have already been established. And it is for the same reason you've spoken about, ma'am, which is to allow for a decentralization within the constituencies, to allow some of these services to be performed by residents. So it would act as a kind of layer to get to the MP to be able to make sure that certain day-to-day things can actually be done. Some of the community centers have already established the management committees. Those in many cases are working well. I think what we are still working through is being able to extend the hours where community centers are operating, because you will find in a number of communities that if you do not have an individual who is able to take control of the center in terms of the keys after 4:30, that then sometimes residents complain that there's no activity taking place. So we've been trying to find those persons to be able to help to manage the community centers after hours. As it relates to the community center versus a resource center, the government has committed itself to being able to increase the number of resource centers and community centers. But here is the thing that I learned when I managed the by-election in St. James North. One of the challenges that we have is that it's not that we had a kind of template where we could say where we wanted community centers to go from 60 years ago. We have seen the emergence of centers because you've had old buildings, because you've had a playing field that was able to accommodate it. And so we've not been able to orchestrate exactly where across the 30 parishes community centers go. So if you take St. James North, for instance, there are challenges in terms of the current minister being able to find spaces where community centers can exist. And in particular along the coastline, there are particular challenges in finding the space to be able to have those community centers. So we had looked, for instance, at being able to utilize even some of the schools and develop the schools so that the communities could use the schools after hours. And that was something that we're intending to do across the various parishes where we recognize that we did not have those resources. I think in Minister Simmons's area, he has had to use containers to be able to finally, for the first time, get a container resource center available within his community. So we are working to fill in the gaps where we recognize that we do not have the resource centers to be able to allow persons to engage in activities. And we recognize that both with our young people and the elderly, that this is a necessity. And we're working with the various agencies, whether it's through the container programs or whether it is with Ministry of Youth, to be able to ensure that we have those programs running across the communities. I don't know if, Minister, you've only gotten your feet wet briefly, but I don't know if you want to add anything in terms of the existing programs with the youth.
Thank you, DPM. So one of the things that the Ministry of Youth are particularly keen on executing over the next financial year is to utilize some of the community centers a bit more, just for not only for the vocational purposes, but maybe for like literacy programs, for cultural arts programs. There various ideas we want to develop at some of these community centers. So the Deputy Prime Minister is correct. The government is looking to establish these through the community centers, but to go beyond that, in Silver Hill, I think there is the only youth center in Barbados. We need to increase the amount of youth centers that we have. So we are going on an ambitious program. We would like to have one in every constituency, but that may not be readily available within the first financial year that we have. But to develop some more of these youth centers so that young people can come, whether it's an artist that wants to do vocal training, whether it's someone we want to do, learn to do barbering, or you want to learn Spanish in these community centers, youth centers, but we want to develop some more of them so that our youth have the space to grow and to learn as well. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Harriet Griffith, for your contribution. We can have our second presenter. Remember, if you have an idea, you go to the back and register to get a number so that you can make your contribution. So we'll hear from the next presenter. And what's your name, sir?
Good evening. My name is Michael Husbands.
Okay, thanks. You're from St. Peter's,
I was
St.
bred
Lucie?
and born in the next street over from this facility. I was born there. I lived at the Arms House Gap, grew up at the Arms House Gap over by Manga Lane. I have two issues. First one, Speightstown is a historic town. I've gone to Bristol, England, and I've found references to Speightstown and St. Peter. there used to be forts in Speightstown. And there were cannons along the Esplanade area of Speightstown. They have gone. And for a historic town to not have these things, it's sad, in my opinion. And I am asking, begging even, that the cannons, or some of the cannons that were taken away from Speightstown, be put back along at the different forts. Some of the forts you can't get to now, but there's still some, and you can get the cannons back there. So, and a little plaque or whatever to show the fort and the reasons for the cannons being there. Because a lot of tourists ask about Speightstown. I give my mom is gone now, so her knowledge is gone with her. But that is one thing that I would like to see. The second one, between Chapel Street and Jordan Supermarket, every single day, is a bottleneck in that area where you can't come down Chapel Street and not be blocked from going south, coming south. So I'm asking, my suggestion is that from 0800 in the morning until 1800 hours in the evening, that you make no parking between Chapel Street and Jordan Supermarket, so the traffic can almost flow freely along that area. That is all. Thank you very much for giving me the chance.
Thank you. We have the representative for St. Peter here, so and we now have the Honorable Prime Minister on our way in. Let's welcome the Prime Minister.
You don't want to sit next to me?
Thank you very much, Mr. Husbands, for, no, not you, Austin. There's probably a proper husbands. But thank you very much for an excellent observation. So let me give an update with respect to the cannon and the forts. About 4 years ago, a group of us, including actually the chair of the parish organizing committee who is sitting behind you to your left, approached the Barbados Defense Force. We approached them understanding, as you said, that we used to have cannon, and I'm not sure if it's cannon or cannons, but Austin and some others pulled me apart for using the wrong word, so either of them. Now, what we found out when we met with the Barbados Defense Force was that they acknowledged that Major Hartland, the late Major Hartland, did have the cannon or cannons removed, ostensibly for safekeeping. That is what we were told. The challenge the BDF has now is that those cannons have been put some into the armory, which is now a museum, and some have been placed on the wall along the seafront of St. Anne's Fort. They actually took us on a tour so we could see them. The challenge they have is that they cannot, they've told us, distinguish between the ones that came from Speightstown and the ones that were there before. I'm being careful with my words because I'm giving you reporter's speech. That is what we were told, so we've had to accept that. They've also said that because of the now growing historic value of the museum, the armory, to disturb it, to pull out almost half the cannon from there will cause a bit of an issue. We agreed that there are some challenges with respect to what the current situation is. And we got an agreement from them that they would work on something that the name actually came from out of the discussion. It was called the Barbados Military History Preservation Project. And they said to us they had to submit a proposal to the National Security Council so that they could proceed. Now, that is about 4 years ago. I have been informed that nothing has gone to the National Security Council about that. In the meantime, we spoke to the Barbados National Trust, and they're excited about getting involved. We spoke to the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. They too are excited about getting involved. It is important for St. Peter and for Speightstown because of the number of forts, as you said. So we got Rupert by Fishpot. There's the battery at 6 Mines, well, the cannon are still there. Haywood's Fort, there are no cannon. Orange Fort, there are no cannon. Coconut Fort, no cannon. And there is one in the sea, but that's been taken out. That's being... No, but that's taken out. We know where that is. That is former Senior Minister Duguid. That is being restored, and because you have to put it through a process once it comes to the water. But what we agreed with the Barbados Defense Force was that as they sailed around the Coast Guard arm, if they saw cannon in the sea, that there would be a process of retrieving them so that we could use some of those as replicas along the forts. The Barbados Cadet Corps and the cadets at Courage and Parry have committed to restoring Dover. Now, Dover still has a cannon, so I think they're provisioned for about 3, but they have 1. So that can work as a replica. But we continue. I've spoken within the last maybe 3 months to the Chief of Staff of the Barbados Defense Force, and will continue to speak to him to get some movement on the project so that we can work out in some systematic, sensible way how we will have either cannon come back or some kind of replica put in the place. Now, put in the places where the forts existed. I should also say that during the last week, I've had conversation with the developers of the Sandals property at Haywoods, which will be beaches, informing them that that site was also the site of a fort. They are also excited because they see a business opportunity to sell a story. So there's going to be a win-win. The question will be, what is it that they will put? And they will be waiting on us. They're ready to install it somewhere on the property, but again, waiting to see if we can have something real or if it's going to be a replica. So that is an update for you. It is an issue that I take very seriously because Austin knows this. We feel very strongly about the heritage of the town and maintaining that heritage. It is vitally important. Speightstown is the town in Barbados probably with the most, if not close to the most, in terms of heritage and what remains of the heritage, and we have to do all that we can to preserve it. So my response to you may not give you all the comfort that you wanted, but it is an update to say that we have been pursuing the matter and that we continue to pursue the matter so that we can have those replicas or some restoration of the cannon where those forts were. Because those forts speak to the value of Speightstown to the country at the time in which they were built. I will also add that within the Military History Preservation Project, we also included signal stations. And the reason I asked for the signal stations to be included is because of all these signal stations across the country, St. Peter is the only parish with 2. So Dover was the first one. Grenade Hall is the second one, across the road from Farley Hill. There is Cotton Tower. In St. Joseph, there's Gun Hill. In St. George, there's Moncrief. In St. Philip, and then there is one close where Banks of Bury's used to be, Highgate. There was one at Highgate, and then there was St. Anne's Fort. So St. Peter has 2, one overlooking Speightstown, and we also included them in that matter of restoring the history, the military component of the history of the town and of the parish more generally. You spoke also to another, the parking. That is a matter for the Ministry of Transport and Works. We have been complaining about that incessantly. Where cars are parking from 111 East going toward Archer's Hall is supposed to be a no parking zone. We need to get the signs. The police say that they only enforce what MTW designates. So if there's a sign, and the sign is supposed to come down, the Deputy Prime Minister knows, because she was a former Minister of Transport and Works, if there's no sign, then they can't enforce anything. So we will continue to persevere with our work with the Ministry of Transport and Works to get the appropriate signage and then get the enforcement from the law enforcement side, from the police side. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, I hope that you got some clarity on your concerns. I also understand that there's a major traffic consultation going on now, so lots of that will be discussed, I'm sure. I hope you're happy with your query or response to your query. Do we have another ID?
Ann Harding. And while Ms. Harding comes to the mic, again, for those of you who came in since we started, if you are planning to make a presentation tonight, you must be from the parish of St. Lucy, St. Peter, St. Thomas, or St. Joseph. And if you are planning to then go to the desk at the back of the room, they will take some basic information from you and give you a number. That number will determine the order in which you come to the mic. Thank you very much. Go on. Proceed, Ms. Harding.
Hi, good evening. I want to say particular thanks to Prime Minister Mia Mottley for coming here to give us this platform to speak, and to Santia Brownchaw and to Stetson and a lot of other really interesting faces that I haven't yet had the pleasure to meet. Some I have, but thank you so much. I am Ann Harding, and I have an idea. So, a little bit of backstory. Sorry, I don't want to put you to sleep, but please just come knock me and say, shut up if I do try to put you to sleep. But the little background is this. I represent a group called Speightstown Sparklin'. And we participated in the island-wide cleanup that Green Nation did last September. I've also been running Cleanup Barbados the past couple of years. It's been going for, it went for, I say went, notice I said that almost in the past, but for 16 years we did a big one annual island-wide cleanup. This year we decided, as I explained to Barney Gibbs, one of the Future Center Trust directors who's a botanist, I said we're like a dehiscent seed pod. It's matured and it goes, poof. A dehiscent seed pod it explodes and all the seeds come out. Because there's people that have been in these cleanups running them for 16 times now. It's not rocket science, and they're really good. And there's so much support for coming out and cleaning up Barbados. So Speightstown Sparklers, what we did was really informal. Just set up a WhatsApp group. All the people that wanted to join come, and we met in the car park. And I had bags and gloves that I could share. And then we just set off in different directions. And I got to say right up front, SSA does a really good job of keeping, I think it's Church Street, Main Street down here, that this SSA goes up and down, I think, twice a day cleaning that street. So they keep that Main Street really clean, but oh my gosh, we've got the nightmare I had that night after cleaning up one of these ditches, I can't tell you. I was screaming. It was gross, but you got to clean all these places. You can't just say, no, that's too gross, we can't clean. You got to go and get your shovel and clean those places up. Now, what I have found in participating in cleanups, now this is what I want to talk to government people about, is this. And it has to do with the maturity of Clean Up Barbados and how that is now maturing into everybody doing their own thing whenever and wherever, we'll support them. But the thing is that the things that I've learned from running these cleanups, number one, if you get the community involved, if you can go out, tell people, look, we got these groups like PricewaterhouseCoopers, et cetera, going into Licorice Village when you get all the people in there. Now, look, we're going to bring skips. We're going to put them here. We're going to put, and we want you to help us fill up these skips. And Lord above, did they ever? So when you can get the community involved, like happened in September with the Speightstown Sparkling Group, went basically along the highway. There was the places that we found that needed to clean up the most, through the car park and down behind Chafette and that canal, and up all the way through the it's like a little chattel house, the little sales area up here across from where the bus stand used to be. That needed a cleanup. So we told those people, we're coming in here, groups are coming in here, and we want you to help us clean up. And they did. And guess what? That's the best part I've learned, is that when you do get the community involved, you say, you're coming in and we're going to help you do it, but we want you to be part of it and help us do it. They actually continue to keep the place clean. You know why? Because they see, we can do it. And guess what? It feels so much better, when we're not surrounded by all this litter. It just feels so much better, and they take pride, so it improves their self-esteem and also in what they can do. Cleaning up is not just for your physical well-being, it's also for your mental well-being, seriously. Okay, but now, this is the problem I have that I'm hoping this idea will help bring some energy to, is one of the problems with dispersing these seeds and letting everybody do their own cleanups everywhere and is the disbursement also of the recognition. So, for example, today, the Rural Fairmont Pavilion, they had a group, and other people joined too, because they said, come and we'll do it. And I hope they've cleaned up all the whole town as well. But people come out and they help with these things. But what recognition do they get for doing? I know they feel good, makes them feel really good, and they get to see, oh, it was ugly and now it's beautiful. And that feels really good for them. But what I've noticed, another thing I've noticed, is that recognizing the people for their good works is a big motivator towards getting other people to say, oh, we can do that too. It's like, oh, we want to be champions too, So that's what I really want to say, in that every year I've talked to the Prime Minister's office. I think it's Department of Culture within the Prime Minister's office. I'm sorry, I'm not getting quite, I could look up names out of my emails, but there's always a lot of interest, like they're really, enthusiastic about what we're doing with the cleanups. But I'm thinking that what the part they can play now is kind of like, well, we're still partnering with the nation, hopefully, because the part they play is to help give recognition to people. So that's the point, it's about recognition for these groups, because now they're doing it all year long in all these different places. And so I'm hoping that we can have some sort of, all it's got to be is a piece of paper that you hand. They can get their own frame if they want to, but just something to say, thank you, job well done, you did that, to give to them as recognition. So that's my idea, is that the government could just, it would be a small act, but would just take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to put something together to formally recognize these people who are there are leaders in the community out there doing these cleanups. So what do you think about that? Thank you.
I think it is a great idea. I think it's very important that we keep Barbados as clean as possible. And it's something that I believe can be worked on in terms of recognizing the people who are doing the cleanup. But I also believe that we need to engage, I agree that we need to engage the community a whole lot more, so as to get them involved in helping themselves. They're just helping themselves, because we have to live in this space, so it's important that we keep it clean. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Just add to that, Stetson, before the next person. Prime Minister had reminded me just a few weeks ago, actually, at Cabinet, that coming out of an Ideas Forum, one of the kids that had spoken had actually encouraged us to be able to do a national cleanup campaign. And, sorry? Quarterly. I think when it had initially been attempted, trying to get all of the ministries together and to do all the coordination with all of the equipment and everything may have been a challenge. But we've started to look at it in the Ministry of Environment, and I want to thank you, Anne, for that, because one of the things that I do agree with you on, and I will take it on board, is to get corporate entities involved, to get community groups involved. But I want to go further, because I feel that we have been cleaning, but we have not been equally beautifying as quickly as we are cleaning. So very often you see nice areas, cleaned, and we're happy, and we're encouraging people to do it again. But I feel that the time has now come for us to clean and also do the beautification immediately. One of the things that we started to look at in NCC is being able to take some of the contract workers and coordinate them into teams where we start with the city center areas and the heavily trafficked areas, especially as we are approaching the 60th anniversary and the 5 years of being a republic, to really start the momentum from now to get people involved in having dedicated spaces that they clean. And maybe what we can start to do is to look at the entities that are already doing it, the ones that want to come on board in specific areas, and really start to clean with the contracted workers and with the heavy equipment to remove the debris, but also to be able to recognize, as you have indicated, to the public what these persons have actually been doing as well. So I can tell you tonight, I don't need it to come as a cabinet decision. We have already started to look at it, and it is certainly something that is in progress. But thank you very much for your excitement as well in cleaning Barbados.
Okay. Jeanette Gibbs. No, Jeanette Gibbs? Okay. The next person would be Cynthia Ford. Oh, Madam Ford.
Honorable Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, of course, these residents from the community surrounding this district, this parish. I have about 6 areas, but I'll just touch the ones that I believe are most important to the people of St. Thomas, because we could not get here tonight because our roads are dislocated. So otherwise, I would have had here filled, because we have a lot of things we want to discuss. So we are grateful for the opportunity and the fact that people are seeing it in their homes, and so this will help spread the word. So rather than my 5, I'll just do 2, because all these distinguished members have got their issues that they will want to have raised, or their ideas, and I welcome this project. Unfortunately, the heart of Barbados is where it should be held tonight. Anyhow, I'm going to take away my petty love for St. Thomas. I'll get to the matter. I want, ladies and gentlemen, to indicate the 2 that I consider most important for us at this time. One is to do with the heart of Barbados, where for years, almost 11 or 12 years, St. Thomas had a project where people were linked from the villages, and they did tours, they did educational aspects of things, cultural things. So much was done. COVID would have had an impact. It linked with Welshman Hall Gully, Harrison's Cave, Mount Hillaby, and so many other areas in there of historic value. People were employed. There were so many activities going all year round. And I believe that we need to get back to it, because Barbadians want to be able to offer their services, their knowledge, their skills, particularly those persons in St. Thomas, and of course we had spread all over. So I'm just going to leave it there in a nutshell in the interest of time and so on. My second one is associated with roadworks. And I am extremely disappointed Because every time you hear there's a road to be fixed in somewhere, St. Michael, Christchurch, wherever, notices are on the air. Information's in the newspaper. 2 major roads, arteries in St. Thomas were closed. Now there is a third. And the dislocation, ma'am, is tremendous. Jack in the Box Gully, as Plastic Bag would know, he probably has a song about it, is one of the most dangerous roads where the rally men did their works. Similarly, Jack in the Box Gully and Vaucluse. And every day, we have to trek through those lonesome roads. I go nowhere at night because I am afraid of what might happen if somebody throws an egg on the windscreen, and then I can't see, and then poor old me, my body is ravaged. I don't know who will waste time with me anyhow. However, I believe that there should be some lights posted in those roads at night. I've requested them through the Ministry of Public Works. Nothing has happened, but the residents are really very upset because the dislocation is tremendous. And it is unfortunate that almost every time that something is going to happen with the roadworks and so on in St. Thomas, we do not get the notices. So to dislocate us, to get from where we are, call it in the heart of Barbados and Wetchma Hall and Sturgis and so, we have to go through Jack in the Box Gully, a racetrack. Almost 3-4 accidents in there every week. Or Hangman's Hill, that has not even been properly done, but the buses are coming. The road is as narrow as here. And we have to scotch up. I would wish, sir, for the people in the Ministry of Public Works and Transport to come and talk with us at Lester Vaughan School, at Holy Innocent School, at a church, somewhere so residents can get to understand. The dislocation is too tremendous and people are upset. And to tie it off all, as I close on that one, no road patching. So the vehicles are falling into big holes. I call them craters now. And every day it is some complaint. They're going to find Minister Gregory in between, but I live right there in the village. So they come and say, St. T women are doing, talk to the minister. I said, but I'm trying, but sometimes you don't even get you on the phone. I can understand that because the people are busy and persons have other concerns. So I would like this government, please, at least let us make a tour, see where we can do the patching and all that, because I did go to Bagatelle earlier this week to be able to ask for some help. And I'm not seeing anything yet because I don't expect the impossible. I'm a human being, they are too, and they have to have the resources, and the government is doing good work otherwise. But St. Thomas is the heart of Barbados. If you destroy your heart, you destroy your whole body. And we've been suffering there for a little while. We would want some kind of address for that one. The second one, ma'am, and sir, I would like to raise is to do with Vaucluse Road. Yes, it is a racetrack, has been for many years. 2 bodies of females were found in there because it is a serious dumping ground. And I had spoken for the last 4 or 5 years with the Honorable Minister for it. I have not been able to communicate otherwise. We were promised cameras. Every time you pass there, the garbage that is dumped on the streets in Vaucluse is not the garbage of St. Thomas people. All forms of garbage, you can name it. It is in the street and causing a lot of dislocation. And then the taxpayers' money. That I have worked 56 years in this government. My taxpayers' money should not be paying for any business with a truck or anybody else's funding to be able to go to clear it with a sanitation truck. Thank you, Minister Ford Adrian, for the sanitation trucks and the government. But I believe that private sector people need to make sure that they take their garbage to the mangrove landfill and not along Vaucluse Road or even the same Hangman's Hill or in Jack in the Box Gully. And that is where we now have to resort to go in order for us to get home. I believe that it is about time that the culture of Barbadians change so that it does not come to that level. In my day when my mother, a poor old woman, would want to cut her grass and so, she found somewhere in the backyard to burn it. She did not bring it and drop it in the middle of the road. 2 bodies were found in there, ma'am. 2 were found in Grandview of females because it is kind of lonesome. And I close, ma'am, because I know other people want to speak and I know I'm get very impassioned about it. I want for us as a government to look at rural Barbados. Every time you hear a road is going to be repaired in Christchurch, somewhere in St. Michael, St. Peter too, because Spike's Town down here, we ain't got no town. Nobody gives us a notice to say we're going to close off Bridgefield Road. We are going to close off Content Road, 2 very major arteries. When you have to go through those lonesome roads, it is not good for any motorist because we're seeing the gangster behavior that is emanating from most of our people. I'm not even only saying males because there's some females who do a lot of silly things too. But I'm saying for us to have to come through there, if we come to a show like this, a formal activity like this tonight, and then have to go through those lonesome roads to get back by Richmond Hall Gully, it is killing us in the heart of Barbados. And I close, ma'am, sir, ladies and gentlemen, because the heart of Barbados, that cultural project has to be reintroduced. It links every parish, and the Cultural Foundation and the other entities in government helped us to be able to bring it to a level. Yes, we understand that COVID kicked in, and it impacted a lot on what we were doing. I am begging, literally begging this government of which I'm a part, and I would have worked in this government 56 years of my life. And I live in the parish, so ma'am, they're not going to find you so easily unless they come to your office. But I live in the little house on the corner. And everybody come to Miss Ford, what happening? Miss Ford, they don't treat me good, you know. I said, no, that's not it. They're trying to share the pie. I try to be diplomatic, and sometimes I am really correct in doing it and saying it that way because you're trying to spread the pie. But I want, Honorable Prime Minister, you and your team to be able to give me at least half hour so that we can see what is happening in the heart of Barbados. Because when you kill the heart, you kill everything in the body. Thank you so much, and I sorely appreciate the time.
Thank you very much for your very passionate contribution.
Jeanette Gibbs, who we missed before, is she back or is she here? Okay, we'll eliminate her from our list then. We'll go to Tyrell Giles.
Roy, just 1 second. I thought Senior Minister was here and would have been in a position to respond, but again, in fairness to the question from former MP Ford, I perhaps would have to say that she is correct in the sense that St. Thomas had been neglected for many years, especially as it related to road infrastructure. And I remember as minister, because of the complaints and the vigorous debates that we had with MP Ford at the time, one of the things that we looked at under the CAF program was to ensure that St. Thomas got a bit of love. And both the Kingarden to Bridgefield Road as well as the Shop Hill Road were two of the priority roads that were done out of three at the time. Prior Park was the third one that was done started 2 years ago in relation to that financial year. As I think the public would appreciate, and Gregory is here and he can tell you, one of the biggest challenges has been the coordination with the utilities. St. Thomas roads are no different to the rest of the island in relation to very old mains, water mains which have been there for over 100 years, and the coordination with the utilities, not just in the parish of St. Thomas, but across the island has been particularly challenging. I say that to give context to the fact that I am sure that if BWA is able to speak, they will tell you that there has been a start and stop over the last few years in relation to those two projects because of the complexity. And for the people who live in Prior Park, many of you will also know that there was a lot of start and stop because even though we felt initially that we had the correct designs, along the way we found difficult areas, a lot of muddy areas, and in Prior Park and in Shop Hill and Kingarden, it has been no different. What I think MP Ford, former MP Ford, I think is the critical thing, however, has been perhaps the communication, because there are large projects and perhaps the communication to the individual residents perhaps could certainly be better. And I suspect that over the coming months, now that we've been able to resolve a number of the issues in relation to the coordination, that my hope certainly is that improvement to the communication can become a lot better so that the residents do not feel as though they don't know what is going on. Truth be told, we had to do work to Hangman Hill. Hangman Hill was not high priority at the time, but we had to bring that from the Scotland District program and prioritize that to be able to give access while the other two major roads were being done. We also completed Reese Road. which, while not, again, another main artery, had allowed for us to be able to divert traffic along that road. And then under the Mill and Pave program, which came about after COVID, we did a number of roads in St. Thomas. The reality is, when you are starting from ground zero, it is going to be a hell of a challenge to be able to get all of the works that needed to be done in the parish of St. Thomas. So I can say to you, I think that we regret that the inconvenience has been so great to the people in the parish of St. Thomas and the people who traverse. But just like we are starting to see light at the end of the tunnel in a number of areas in the Scotland district where it has not been easy for the teams that have been working on those projects to be able to manage all of the complexities of the clay soils and the slippage and then the unexpected weather that, you know, we could never have predicted. In addition to the fact that when we have heavy rains, the bridges break down, and then resources have to be directed from all of the utility companies and the projects to be able to go to deal with those areas. So I think the public also has to appreciate the magnitude of what Barbados is trying to build back and build back stronger, but also to recognize that it is not a perfect situation. While we try to communicate as effectively as we can sometimes, the reality is that the inconveniences as well are real. And we do have some serious capacity issues, whether it is within MTW, whether it is in terms of being able to get the external experience, or even if it is in relation to the other utility companies. We are playing serious catch up to be able to address the needs that the public has access to address. And while we have done great in terms of Prime Minister and the finance team being able to go globally to be able to access financing, the reality is that we, for the most part, have 3 main contractors on island that can carry out the road works. We have had the Scotland District project, which has allowed us to be able to do a lot of the work in the Scotland District through the People's Republic of China. And again, that relies on the same main contractors who have asphalt plants to be able to do that work as well. So the capacity is a real concern in being able to execute what is, I consider to be one of the most ambitious road works programs. We've brought in the pothole patching machines. I know Senior Minister is working to be able to get those deployed because we recognize that while we're trying to do all of the big works, we still have to do the small works. And we brought 6 at the end of December. I think by January, the full complement had come. The teams were to be trained up, and those pothole patching machines were to be then deployed so that the MTW staff could basically get on the ground and address some of the repairs that needed to be done to the roads. But here's the last thing I will say. While you are doing the patching, and we accept that there's a lot of patching to be done, sometimes people feel as though you are wasting resources. But I think the ministry government has recognized you have to do the patching because you got to do some maintenance. Otherwise, those same roads that we are seeing being patched are going to deteriorate if we don't nip it in the bud. So we have had to have a couple layers of the roadworks program. Fixing the very difficult, complex roads where there is drainage issues, where there's a slippage, where you have to do the curb and slipper. We have had programs where we have focused on what we would call the mill and pave, which is roads that are not very complex. I'm seeing the start of the program where Prime Minister has championed the cart road programs. Just before the upcoming election, we had signed off on a number of roads, and across the country, a number of what we consider the cart roads are being done across the island. And those are being done by the smaller contractors because we recognize that the big contractors would not be able to do those because they have been working on the more complex projects. And so there are different approaches to the roads, but I think the public has to still accept that the volume of the work that confronted us requires obviously different approaches, and it is very complex working with the utility companies to be able to meet the concerns that the public will have from time to time. So, Ms. Ford, we have heard you. I have heard you for a long time as minister. I know I will continue to hear you on behalf of the people of St. Thomas, but I assure you that we have heard the concern tonight again in relation to communication, and I'm sure Senior Minister in the fullness of time will seek to address that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We now have Tyrell Giles, he's from St. Thomas, to speak about community tours.
night, Prime Minister. Good night, DPM. Oh, good night. Good night, PM. Good night, DPM. Members of Cabinet. Good night to you too, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tyrell Giles from Allen View, St. Thomas, here to speak about community tourism. If you know Allen View, you know that it's located right between two of the major tourist attractions in St. Thomas. We have Harrison's Cave and we have Welsh Mahal Gully. And we also have the Coast Cave, which is not as developed. Recently, as I am a young person and I spend a lot of time with young people, whether it is trying to help them to develop programs or in terms of mentorship, there's a renewed interest in community tourism and the drive for it. So whether it be the informal tours into Coast Cave, which we spoke about before, and the drive to formalize that, we know that that comes with its own complications, but these guys know the cave back to front. It's just a matter of getting them the safety equipment to traverse, whether it be insurance purposes, etc. But I think that we have to now expand that into a bigger project where you have, when you look over from Sturgis, you can look right over to Mount Hillaby, and whether it be by way of gondola, whether it be by way of zip line, there must be a way now that we as St. Thomas people can drive community tourism to the point that we almost like next level international, where you can traverse from one part of St. Thomas to the next with a view like never before, and then going to Coast Cave directly after. I don't know if there's a way, perhaps, that investors can help in terms of the insurance of helping these youngsters to safely go into Coast Cave, perhaps under one body. But it would be a shame if somebody who has no connection to St. Thomas or Barbados comes and gets the opportunity to man that project in terms of taking people in and out of Coast Cave and very well get lost themselves, because the cave takes years to learn. I mean, it's no joke. We hear many stories about the fire truck having to come and get people out of the cave. It takes years to master safely getting in and out of Coast Cave. I also think that on the way to Harrison's Cave, when you leave the triangle, because it's not quite a roundabout, but at the top of Allen View, there's a triangle that takes you to Harrison's Cave. I see that the youngsters now, my friends, my colleagues, people I grew up with, are now setting up shop, whether they're selling fruits, whether they're selling vegetables, whether they're selling craft. Even if you go to Sturgis, that's a whole different kettle of fish. They're selling craft and fruits and vegetables as well. I think that there must be a way that we can develop it in a sense that on the stretch to Harrison's Cave, all of these things are now available in a proper and structured way, so that when tourists get off the bus by the National Heritage Department and they walk down to Harrison's Cave, they're not just seeing the black belly sheep, but there's a lot more to see. And no, it's no joke. They do stop to see the black belly sheep. Many taxi guys stop the taxi so that the tourists could take photos of the black belly sheep. But what I'm saying is, if we can add to that in a structured way, so that on the way to Harrison's Cave, you're not just going for the cave experience or the hole in the ground as we refer to it now, but you're going for the experience from that bus stop straight to the cave and back. So that's my 2 cents. I know that there's a lot of community work being done, but I think that something needs to be done now to help the youngsters in terms of specifically the Coast Cave aspect, in terms of the insurance and safety equipment, before someone else bigger and better comes and do it. Bigger but not quite better. And as it relates to having the vendors, so that we build out the experience from the bus stop by National Heritage Department to the cave. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tyrell. I think that your idea is a great idea in terms of expanding what we have to offer in around the cave. Any comments from any?
I think you articulated the point very well, and I recall, I think at one of the previous ideas forum, you would have mentioned that idea as well. I believe it's in our cabinet paper also as one of the things to take forward. As Minister for the Environment, I know that, and this is close to St. Thomas as well, the Gully Project. I am well aware that we've been doing a lot of work in the gullies, and I believe the current representative at one of the last ideas forums spoke about a gully project. I'm very excited about it, I must tell you, because I think that it has tremendous potential not only to teach people about the biodiversity in the gullies. We've been finding a lot of interesting species there that are unique to Barbados. But in addition to that, as you have pointed out, we need to connect these tourist attractions to creating economic activity for people within communities. And perhaps the starting point is, and I think, Terrell, you're a young man that I like a lot. I think you have a lot of great ideas. And maybe you need to start engaging at the level with some of the agencies for investment. This is a government that has been funding ideas, and I think you're waiting for investors to come, but maybe you need the support to be able to develop your own type of investment that others can invest in. So my advice to you is, let us have the conversation about how we can direct you, because this is not the first time you've raised it. And I think based on the reaction from everybody in the room, I think we all accept that attractions alone are not enough in terms of just the physical place, but it is about the experience. I used to run a rum shop, so I could tell you it's all about experience for tourists, right? We take a lot of things for granted that we enjoy as Barbadians, but we also have to see it through the lens of the people who are coming to the island. People like the experience of interacting with Barbadians. We are some of the warmest people in the Caribbean. And we have to make Barbados work for us, not just for people who are coming in, but it has to work for us first. And it is those experiences that we need to be able to find a way to capitalize on. I recall from running a rum shop, the simple thing like being able to have ice in a bowl and serve somebody a rum and coke, and that tourist can put their hand in a bowl with the ordinary person in a rum shop, was an experience. And it is what kept them coming back to bars and to rum shops, because they got to intermingle with the local fraternity. We cannot take those things for granted. It is the roasting of breadfruits in a gully. It is, of course, making sure that you do not singe the trees. And we therefore need to make sure that we educate people about protecting the environment while at the same time enjoying the environment. And I like the direction you're going. Maybe we can also form some synergies to incorporate the cave and the route to the cave along with the Gully project, because I think that tourists coming to Barbados want more of that natural experience that Barbados has to offer, but is not fully tapped into. I recognize the current MP, and I take it you want to say a few words. Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, other ministers, and good audience here this evening. Deputy Prime Minister, you know that we spoke about the gullies. During the elections, I made a lot of effort to talk to people about the Gully project. Yeah? Yeah. And I start from the point that I remember that my grandmother used to say that she couldn't walk on the plantation roads. They had to use the gullies to get to different parts of St. Thomas. My uncles always talked about playing cricket in the gullies, because back then there were no playing fields for people to actually play cricket. So the gully has a very large part of our history and heritage. There's an extensive network of gullies in St. Thomas. We went into one in Ericott on the Easter Bank holiday, and we walked almost down to Raman's constituency in Bruceville. And we discovered what is kind of like a small waterfall. There's a spring, natural spring starting in Ericott, and it breaks out into 3 small tributaries. And I think I spoke to you earlier in the week. and also to Indira, who's here, who's Minister responsible for public and private investment. So Terrell, we are talking about these opportunities because if you go to Grenada, you go to St. Vincent, people go into these waterfalls. And I'm sure that spring is running all the time. And it's not a big waterfall, but it goes off a little cliff and there's a little pool there in 3 different areas. Untapped, nature trails, and we talk about biodiversity. What we want, and as I told the people in ERICOT, they are also conscious of the fact that somebody might come now and say, well, this lad is white, and their access to, but they went and get crayfish. In St. Thomas, I mean, you're going to get crayfish. So that they're worried that somebody's going to come, take it, exploit it, and the people that know about these areas know the history or not. So what we have to do is to get a meeting with Minister Weir and see how the Barbados Tourism Investment Inc. can help develop the project. Community tourism, heritage tourism, nature tourism, and create the opportunities for these sites and in the gullies. I'm also interested in protecting the biodiversity in the gullies, making sure that they're clean, and also can provide employment opportunities for the people in those communities to plant more of our flora, and to protect the fauna in our gully system and network.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nichols. We now have a contribution from Mr. Andrew Phillip.
Yes, blessed good night to each one of you here. Yeah, can you? Okay. Yeah. A blessed good night to each one of you here, including Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, well-plastic bag, Mary. See, I'm not to embarrass you as such, and the Prime Minister's cabinet, actually most of her cabinet members I've seen so far, right? Well, my concern, right, is about the long time that the bridge at Port Corner, I mean, it has been sort of, mind-boggling, is of great concern to actually most of the Port Corner public, right? I don't know if any person with if he was in the audience, to give me some sort of support about it, but I believe, right, that this project is taking too long, right? And based on what I was told and what I actually, investigate upon, when you want found that, it is a simple project, right? And why is it taking so long? We actually partly stalled, right? Because it would have started, I think, the 12th of February in 2020, right? And the truth is, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? Because it is not a Hyatt project or the Pendry project that up there, up in here was, or the Indigo Hotel, and other major hotels that actually has started, as I say, it's mind-boggling, because I hear a lot of negativity and things about this project and things at the present, at the present sort of progress, right? But I look at it from a different and on a positive kind of note, right? Because this, I was sort of educated about how, you know, it has to be built, right? And, you know, a lot of negativity that I would have heard, to me, remind me of, you know, when Noah was building the ark, you know, because they had a lot of negativity, you know, about that same sort of, you know, project then, because that's not a project, that's a project too, you know, it's a project, right? Anyhow, you know, as I say, I take a different sort of, you know, stand on it, right? And there's no way no one can change my mind. Right? Only can change the Almighty, but as I see it right now, right, you know, part of it would have started to take shape, you know, especially the area from coming up towards Johnson, short past by the old bath, and you want to turn and make a right turn towards Sir Charles Griffith Lake, parents, you know, that part sort of take, you know, shape, right? And I believe that it will be a good idea to actually continue, because I hear that you gotta get licked down and dig down and things, but it will be a side occasion. But I am totally against that sort of licking down and digging that project and that bill. I favor and I support the continuation. Right? What they will have to do is to put sort of mini portion of bridge, you know, not as expensive, because I don't think that is going to be as expensive as the current portion that would have been built already, right? And, you know, convert it into a four crossing some type of project, right? Because to me, based on what I said, it would be an ideal sort of project, right? That I believe that will lift up and enhance, and, you know, the beauty of the Poicorn sort of village, right? And another thing too, you will have, you know, a great relief from the inconvenience and the disadvantageousness that the people would have experienced for so long, right? Because I know certain projects in Kenya, the Deputy Prime Minister was saying that, and they will take a lot of time. Sometimes they are complex sort of, you know, stages and things, even issues and things, because we sometimes start a project, right? And, you know, unexpectedly things pop up, right? That you have to actually stop and think and try and, you know, go, try to get a plan, an alternative plan also, so as to go ahead with this project. Well, you know, this is understandable, right? But I really would like to see the continuation of that project, right? Because, as I said, it will lift up Poicorn, and I believe it will be the gem and beauty of Poicorn, right? Similar like the George River, are close to the caliber of the George River in St. Joseph, right? You know, one thing that will be missing is the teacup and saucer type of, you know, emblem, you know? Okay. Yeah. So I am pleading, I am begging, right, for the continuation of the bridge, right? No digging, just continue on it present course. Let's have a resumption, right? Okay. Rather than start the train to digging up. And so, come to me, just digging down thing. I might be probably talking too fast, right? But I talking in anticipation of such intended decision, but you know, that hoping that will not take place, and that rather there be a continuation from a present sort of situation, right? But before I go back to my seat, right? Another issue too, right? The issue is about in general, right? We have projects ongoing, right? And the sort of picture taking and so on at the various stages of construction and things, I really don't favor that, right? I would prefer, whether it's something from the Ministry of Education, Health, or any other ministry, right, that, you know, some of the officials, right, take and some time off, right, and just move themselves from the office, you know, and come on the site, you know, and get a feel, like even interact, even some of the workers, right? Because I believe that they will be glad, you know, for some suggestions, you know, advice and so on, because none of us don't know everything, you know, because we are here to assist, right? Because at the end of the day, Barbados belongs to all of we, and we all live here. Even if we go overseas and spend, you know, a little time, we will return, right? Because I said it's no better than Barbados.
Thank you.
Anyhow, let me.
Oh, you have more. Oh, sorry. Sorry, you have more. Okay, sorry.
Let me even listen to the issue here, so, right?
So this is another issue.
Another issue, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't be too long though. But the bus service, right? You know, there was an intended plan to go fully electrical, right? But I would prefer, right, for the retention, right, of some of those diesel buses, right? I don't expect you to have a big amount, but at least a small amount, right? So that when the electricity buses go to the charging ports and so on to be charged and so on, because I don't really feel that it would be possible to get enough charging ports for all of those buses, right? Because it might incur, you think people have to do a lot of doubling up and things, and you know, it really, you know, could be challenging that time. Right? So I would prefer, as I say, retention of some of those diesel buses. I would have talked about this thing here, so at St. Lucie sort of speak, you know, early in 2024, you know, when it was there, you know. Yeah. So, you know, if you just keep a small amount, well, because even your homes and so on, you know, you don't got electrical services only, right? You only got a stopgap sort of service, right? Like smart light, you know, a candle, you know, a lantern, and so on, right? That would assist until you get that electricity, right? So, you know, just don't just listen to me, but you know, we want a little bit of action, right? And another thing is, I would like to see a small fire service there in the street area, right? That will actually take some pressure off the various fire stations, right? Because, you know, people from the state, people from 10 years from the thing won't be so much sort of stretch out, you know? So, you know, y'all can not only at least take that idea and consider it, right? But I beg and I plead, I will see a resumption, you know, of the bridge at Point Corner, right? Because it is desperately needed. People have been inconvenienced and disadvantaged for too long. So let's have some sort of restarting as soon as possible. I thank each one of y'all for listening, and I will continue to be part here.
Thank you very much. Do you have a comment?
Thank you, sir, for your appeal for Paikorna to be restarted and resumed. I saw Senior Minister just now. I suspect he's going to come back in shortly. But in the interim, I just wanted to indicate that as it relates to Paikorna Bridge, and I think Minister will also be able to speak to this in more detail in terms of where it's at. But one of the challenges that we encountered is when that bridge was first started, it would have been started in a period where I don't think there were the actual designs, detailed designs for the bridge. Philip Tudor at the time, who many of you would be aware of, was the former CTO, would have died somewhere during the construction. And with his death, he left us with 40 years of experience going as well. It caused a number of issues for the Ministry of Public Works because with that institutional knowledge that he had, with the professional experience that he had, there were some challenges that I think, in fairness to the officers, that they encountered in being able to get things going within the ministry again. It was a major loss for the MTW. We recognize that internal ministry had started a number of those designs. In particular, at the time, there would have been the maintenance unit, which was then transferred over to housing. And with that move, a number of the steel benders who had been working on the Pike Corner Bridge left and went over to housing. There was a period where, when I came into the ministry, we were engaging those steel benders to work on the bridge, but they were also working for national housing. And we took a position that, and I am unapologetic for this, because I believe that when we don't do things the right way, this is the reason why we end up in an ideas forum where there's a call for these things. But I took a conscious decision that we needed to have the proper engineering designs done. And we solicited the services, we sent it out to tender. That process has been ongoing in terms of the designs. But sir, you would also perhaps be aware that what has also happened is there is another bridge, a smaller bridge just around the corner from the main Pike Corner Bridge, which has been overtopping for as much years as the other bridge has not been in operation. And when we did some site visits to that location, we recognized that that particular bridge, because it is blocked, it was actually stopping the flow of water coming from upstream to be able to flow easily to the sea. So we recognized that we had to add that particular bridge as well into the scope of works for the engineering consultants to be able to look at both of the bridges. Those works started. I believe Senior Minister may be able to update as to where they are. But this was one of the projects that, as I said, we needed engineering designs for, and we put things in motion to be able to do that, along with places like Lambert's and a number of the others, Missum Bridge and a number of the others that had been outstanding for a long time, that MTW itself, through the depots, had been trying a thing to basically do, but did not have the actual designs for the officers to be able to work to plan. And the one thing y'all will know about me is that if we do not have a plan, we got to pause and we got to make sure that we get it right before we proceed. Because trying a thing leads to the frustration and the aggravation of the general public. What I can tell you is that we did a number of designs when we recognized that we did not have those basic engineering designs. So from Bordens to, as I said, to Pike Corner, to all of those areas, we left a number of those designs through the engineers in motion, which Senior Minister Humphrey can know, and certainly Dr. Springer can speak to in terms of where that process is now at. Senior Minister?
So good night, everyone. It's good to be back in the north. I was here a few weeks ago for the traffic consultation, and it is good to be back here. The Deputy Prime Minister has given most of the details in relation to the plans for the north as it relates to bridges. I must tell you that I have concerned myself with the roads, the bridges, the potholes, overgrown trees and shrubs and bushes, particularly in the north, although I represent the south. And we started our MTW on the road tour in the north. And we spent, as you might have seen on social media, a significant amount of days visiting these sites, visiting these bridges, and visiting roads and so on, and that came up as part of the conversation. The report that I have in my hand had said that a lot of these works, the design works, because the bridges had to be designed. In fact, there's been a comprehensive study on most of the bridges that tells us the state of the bridges and what needs to be done. But of course, to fix it, you still need to do the design work. And the companies that are associated with these design works are very reputable companies in Barbados. However, what they've said to me, most of these things we expected to have ended in December, some in January, but they've asked for an additional time to do the design works because these are very complex and complicated bridges, including the one in Pike Corner. So we're going to have those design works in hand very soon, and after that we're going to go out to the usual tender and begin the work. I think what I will do, though, as part of the conversation that I've been having with MTW, is to make sure when we do that, or wherever we are in this process, we have to communicate better with the people. I think people do not know what's going on, and that is what's really causing the concern. And MTW has a responsibility to recognize that y'all are its constituents, y'all are really its clients, and therefore we have to spend more time communicating. So we will come back to the north. I was just saying to Romel, we will come back to the north, maybe here or somewhere else, when we have the designs in hand, which should be very soon, show the designs to the public, and allow y'all to feed into the construction going forward. But it's totally true to say that the DPM has started the work in relation to the investigation of the bridges. And the thing that I've heard on part of the traffic consultation is if you can't manage the maintenance of things like bridges and roads, how are you going to do these other things that we plan to do? So I know we have to give the public the assurance, and I give you the assurance that my commitment is to the maintenance, it is a consultation, it is a communication. And the Pike Corner Bridge in particular, which was raised here, I was just looking at the information for that. That was due to be handed in December 12th. The design works are still not completed. So I will come back and share with you when I have the designs in hand. We anticipate, I'm told that we should have them by the end of the month. And then when I bring them here, we could go through them and have a fuller conversation on them. But that is where we are. It's a very reputable company that is doing the work. So if they say that they needed some more time to be able to do it properly, then we're giving them the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Humphrey. We now have Mr. Ian Babb to bring his ideas on education with regards to the grooming policy, on transport, the organization of the Transport Board, and the development of sport, especially cricket.
Good night. While the Minister of Transport was on works was speaking, I could put in this point right now. I hope he's paying attention to the road dealing from Mile and Quarter to Port Ferdinand. That road is horrible. I hope he pay a visit to it. And in so doing, look at the prospect of widening the road on the hill, Sandover Hill. 2 vehicles cannot pass properly in front of Port Ferdinand. 2 vehicles always rubbing each other, especially if it's 2 concrete trucks. I say no more on that. Now, what I'm going to say now, I know isn't going to go down well with a lot of people. And that is on education and the gun violence and the violence throughout this country. And let me tell you something, this stems from when the Education Act was passed in 1981 to start flogging in schools. Do the subtraction. 81 and this 26, 45 years. 45 years. Those who are the 40 years old, and who are the ones that get in trouble? Huh? Think about it. And what about these people, children? What about the 45-year-old children now? You think somebody can hit either one of the children? Even in their home. I had to caution a young lady who her grandmother had to flog her son. And she went to beat the grandmother. Same thing with the father. The father flogged a daughter, belonged to one of the children, and he holds her legs. You in a situation where you live in a household and children, brothers and sisters cannot discipline children. Those of you, all of us in here who are over 60 years old, we ain't got no problem. We know. Or let me tell you this. How many children could say the 10 Commandments? Be honest, how many could say the 10 Commandments? I had a class and I asked children, you know, to raise your hand if you know the 10 Commandments. And not one hand went up. A class of near 30 children. Not one hand went up.
Mr. Babb,
yes.
Forgive me for interrupting, but I want to redirect you a little bit. There's a lot of passion in what you're saying.
Yes.
And I think we all recognize that we are at that point in the country where we need to have this kind of a discussion. But I want you to reframe it, please. Tell us, don't just tell us what your complaint is. Frame your complaint in terms of what it is you're suggesting.
I can get to that.
No, we don't want you to get to it. You got 9 more people behind you. So what I'm saying to you is, rather than spend the time on the problem, spend the time on the solution. So share the solutions.
All right. Bring back flogging in schools. Right? Bring back flogging in schools. Listen, it hurt my heart to know or to be able to say that what we are saying is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Bring back flogging in school and teach children moral values. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Reinforce these in children now, especially at primary schools, and let me save this coming generation. Because the other one lost already. Ain't there much we could do about them? Madam Deputy, I know you had this thing, but I know you don't like flogging. I say, but the Education Act take away flogging from certain teachers at school. Instead of dealing with the teachers who abuse children, instead of putting things in place for abusing children, they take it away. So right now, I am saying that you could go back to it, reintroduce flogging by teachers in schools, and put things in places that children should not be abused. My next thing
is on education.
Yes, that's on education.
Transport.
Oh.
Transport.
You see, the measures just step in. And yet there yet. The grooming policy. The grooming policy introduced in education, it cannot introduce a grooming policy without consequences. If somebody breached one aspect of the policy, what would be the outcome? I haven't seen the grooming policy, so I don't know if consequences are part of it. But if there are not consequences as part of the grooming policy should go in the waste basket. Good, I can come now to sport. I would like to know what the Ministry of Sport is doing as it relates to cricket. I get the firm impression that they are killing cricket. They are killing cricket to its natural death. It was drawn to my attention that the Sports Council puts money in First Division Cricket, BCA. What are they doing for the BCL? What are they doing for the BCL cricket? Now, in BCA, when a fellow goes to play cricket in BCA cricket, he don't have no empire fee to pay. He don't have to pay no lunch. No, you don't have no ball fee. But you got that in BCL. So what was happening? People leaving the BCL and go to the BCA to play cricket. And not only that now, look what is happening now. They are stifling cricket for football. Can you imagine the all cricket field at Mahika playing field that we built, Sports Council telling we ain't to play cricket there? What madness that is? Mahika is the cricket club, you know. That's the name, that's how it get its name. We had a field opposite the bus stand where when the road passed through and built it take our playing field. We used to have teams playing there with what we call rubber line cricket. Some people in here from Spike will know about rubber line cricket. Where we had the Farm Road, Queen Street, Royal View, Mahika, all we playing cricket in a community at community level, and those same players feed BCA cricket at Bristol Cricket Club. A lot of Bristol members came from that Mahika playing field. Now, that playing field now was given to us to replace that. You think that the Sports Council or the government will help me fix it? No. We, the Mahikans, we had to get with shovels or rakes and repair that pasture for ourselves with the help of C.O. Williams when they was doing the marina, who come and drop mud and all kind of things on the pasture and level it out and roll it. Yes, go away. And now they can tell we that we can't play cricket there. We had a pavilion there, a galvanized shell pavilion. And I, personally, went with Winafa and talked to Winafa to get that pavilion built there now, all in the name of Mahika Cricket Club, and get the lights put up. Mahika Cricket Club, I sure, you ever hear about a double wicket competition in Barbados? Have any of you?
Yes, I have.
Well, Mahika Cricket Club used to host double wicket competitions at Mahika playing field. That's how organized we were. Okay. And when Mr. Alpha put the lights, we asked Mr. Alpha to fence around the pasture, but he never get to it. And now the fence it around, they tell me football only to accommodate a sport in Barbados. That Barbados, I don't know when the last time Barbados ever win a football competition in the Caribbean.
All right.
But cricket is feeding young people. We got T20, a lot, and we feed them all over the world. And still, they try to kill the cricket. Telling me, and at Mahika, every Saturday morning, we had primary school children teaching them cricket under the guidance of the late Adrian King, right on that pasture. And when they get big enough for secondary school, they went on to Richard Stricker. And we produce, from there we produce a lot of West Indian players.
So what is your
Yeah,
wish?
idea.
What is your proposal
What do you want to see happen?
We thought that you all had picked it up already. I want the ministry to put some money in cricket.
Okay.
I want the ministry to put some money in cricket. And reinstate cricket at the Mahika Cricket Ground.
Okay.
With immediate effect.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I was just getting the background to the Mahika Cricket Club. Mahika Cricket Club got 2 players on the West Indies cricket team. Justin Graves and Matthew Ford. And they got Kemar Roach, who came through the Richard Stricker coaching clinic. So I don't know what the minister, if the minister of sport is here to have something to say. But I expect keen action. Some of our members have wrote letters to the ministry already, and they say they haven't had no reply. So I hope now what I say don't fall on deaf ears.
All right. Thank you very much. You've been heard loud and clear, my friend. We'll continue with Jason Phillips to make his contribution. I just want to remind you, when you come, remember it's all about ideas. Your ideas to create a better Barbados. So just articulate your ideas clearly and as early as possible in your presentation.
I first wish to acknowledge the Master of Ceremonies, the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Members of Parliament present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jason Phillips, and I was born right here in Spikestown. I grew up there in Church Street, and I live in 6 Mains Development. My topic, or the issue that I want to look at tonight, is transportation. And I'm concerned with the good people who live deep in Boscobel, Indian Ground, and even Spikestown, who travel earlier mornings, far in the south, maybe to the hospital as an orderly or nurse, police officers going all in St. Philip, maybe in St. Lucie. And for a number of years, many decades, we relied on the Transport Board bus service, a government entity. And I remember a number of months ago, government spoke about the divestment of the Transport Board. And that simply means privatization of the Transport Board. And we all know that investors are in business to make money. So, I'm concerned about that person who wants to leave Boscobel or anywhere in St. Peter earlier mornings to go to and from work or leave work very late at night. Perhaps they work at the hospital and they have to take the last bus. Now, to be reasonable, a business person is in it for money. The bus may be full coming from Bridgetown to Spikestown. And to get to Boscobel or to Indian Ground, we might have a problem there. I can't see a businessman wanting to take his vehicle or her vehicle to deep Boscobel with 3 people in it. So, that is the issue. the solution. I want our government, and I use our, to promise us, we from St. Peter, or Barbadians across this country, that they will pass legislation to force any private investor who gets to control our transportation system, that they will maintain the routes and the schedules. So don't tell me at 12, when the last bus is leaving Bridgetown to take home that hard-working nurse to Lonesome Hill in Indian Ground, that when they get to Spikestown, they're done and going back up the road because it doesn't profit them. Guarantee the good people of St. Peter that if we go ahead with the divestment of the Transport Board, that government will ensure, that's the solution, pass legislation to force investors that they must follow through with the route and the schedule. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you going to make a comment? Okay.
Good night again, and good night, Jason.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. So we were here, as I said, a few weeks ago, speaking to transportation. And the thing that was clear to me, and I think it's clear to people in the North, is that the current system does not necessarily give the North the best transportation in any event, and that there's a need for us to make some changes. I think when I'm finished, I will allow the operations manager to speak. But that there is a need for us to make some changes in the way we deliver services to the North. Again to the
Thank you. I'm not going to agree that you're going to start to address the problems in the North while allowing a factual inconsistency, inaccuracy to stand here. There is no divestment of the Transport Board or privatization as you want to speak to. This government has agreed that we need to have a mass transit authority. The Mass Transit Authority does, Jason, what you've asked for us to do. So we start on the same principle. You cannot have a public transport system that does not have appropriate day-to-day regulation. And that is why tomorrow on the cabinet paper, I believe, you have an update for us as to where we are with the establishment of the Mass Transit Authority. 1. 2, we have said from the beginning that there is no divestment in the traditional sense. There is enfranchisement. Now, I know that it may be difficult for you to see beyond the letter D, but E comes after the letter D. You understand? And for the record, enfranchisement is why my political party exists and why my political party determined, even after we won on this last occasion, that one of the 3 things that we're focused on is to create opportunity. Now, at the end of the day, we started that process in the past. Unlike previous layoffs at the Transport Board before in previous governments, we created opportunities with the TAP program. Some people who were drivers came on, they got buses, and for the gentleman from St. Lucie who spoke about the need to retain some diesel buses instead of only electric buses, I can assure you that that is happening because the government effectively allowed the previous drivers to be able to have access to the buses. And in many instances, we put and fixed them up with the powertrains to be able to give them a new life. So before Kirk goes into the details of truly meeting the needs of the people of St. Peter and St. Lucie and St. Joseph and St. Andrew, it is important because before the last election, it was being repeated as if it is a fact. It is not a fact. And that the enfranchisement that is being entertained is to allow the drivers and the workers at the transport board to own. Right now, there are more privately owned public service vehicles in Barbados than there are publicly owned buses. And that came about when we came to office. The number of PSVs were in excess of 600, I think close to 700. The Transport Board doesn't have anywhere close to that number of buses. In fact, when we came to office, the Transport Board barely had 60 or 70 buses functioning on the road. It now has 121 electric buses. It still has a number of dieseline buses, but those are literally coming to close to end of life, and we accept that. But the ones that can be resuscitated with the powertrains are the ones that go into the TAP program. So I hope, Jason, that I've explained, one, that there is no privatization and sale of the Transport Board to any one or two owners. Two, that what the government is pursuing is enfranchisement and creating opportunities for families. And may I contextualize it? This is not a recent policy of the Barbados Labour Party. This was started under Tom Adams, who saw transport and food as the two major areas for economic enfranchisement for ordinary Barbadian families. Regrettably, a lot of Barbadians who got bus licenses and who were given them in a view that they would pass it on to their children as property have taken the same licenses and sold them and allowed other people to consolidate ownership in the privately owned public sector vehicle market. Thirdly, we are very, very clear, and we are at Eden with you, and it doesn't need to be done by legislation because the regulation of the Mass Transit Authority, when it is established, will be able to say to people, Colin, you take a long route that may not be as profitable for 3 months. At a different point, we're going to rotate you so you have a more profitable route for the next 3 months. You, Austin, you had a short route that make enough money. Well, you can't hold that anymore. You got to go and do a long route. And if at the end of the day, you are not operating your route to the terms and conditions of the license given to you, you get a warning. And after the first warning, you may get a second letter that says to you that if you put your foot on the crease again, you are what? Out. So that the system of the Mass Transit Authority is what is needed to be able to do the day-to-day regulation in a way that we don't currently have with the structure of the current Transport Authority. And all we are saying is that we believe that the market has effectively, by the last government to which you belong, been privatized by ensuring that there was opportunities to the private sector. But if I am now to be fair to you, that was a form of enfranchisement. We want to continue the enfranchisement. And we accept that the investment in an electric bus is much more than an investment in a dieseline bus. So we've had to go through, and Santi will tell you, and Kirk will tell you, a complex process, but we're satisfied that the government, by utilizing the opportunities, and this is without prejudice to the discussions that have to go on, that the government will utilize not just the benefit of the ones for which we paid, but the ones which we were given as a gift need to go into the mix to make sure that we can reduce the burden of the costs to each person that now buys. So the government is going to pass on the benefits fully to the people who buy the buses. But I want to make the final point that is just the drivers. But other people who work at the Transport Board will be given opportunities for economic enfranchisement should we agree with the workers and the unions once the discussions formally start. And where is that likely to be? A bus terminal must be cleaned. Right now you have people cleaning it. why shouldn't they be given the opportunity to partner with another cleaning company that is determined by a public tender process where they can have shares and be part of that cleaning company while making sure that we keep the place clean, but they become owners. A transport terminal needs security. Similarly, why can't we ensure that we enfranchise them to be able to be part and parcel of the ownership process once again with another private sector entity that will be determined by public tender? And when we say private sector entities, it is likely that we will create a new company, but the determination as to who we partner with will be on the basis of a public tender for requests for proposals. Where we anticipate that we may see a consolidation in transport will be in the area of school transport. And we have said the government spends millions of dollars, $6 or $7 million every year, or 8, I can't remember the exact figure, so please don't hold me to it.
The Deputy Prime Minister is on record saying that the Transport Board will be divested. And we know that divestment means privatization of the Transport Board. And I am only concerned insofar as we are going to guarantee if the Transport Board is divested, that the government will hold those investors who put money in that Transport Board, that they will honor our people by insisting that they go the full route and that the schedules are kept. Our Prime Minister, you went very wide. I'm not concerned about the union part and so on. Enfranchisement simply means that the drivers and so on might get the opportunity to own the bus. That's not my concern. My only concern for St. Peter is that if there is divestment of the Transport Board, privatization of the Transport Board, that the private investor does not run the service only for a profit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, Jason, and I understand the question. I think the Prime Minister was very clear. So there are two things you have to understand. And the first is that PM was very clear, there's no divestment, there's no privatization. We met with the drivers, and we're going to continue meeting with the other staff. And we're looking at a model that puts the buses into the hands without them having to look for a lump sum, with the necessary support to clean the buses, to maintain the buses. They own the buses. They get to own and to drive if they choose to. The model is sound. And we've had those conversations. I can't say too much here, but there's no company that's coming in to own the Transport Board or none of those things you're alluding to. It's none of that. As it relates to the cleaning and the maintenance and the servicing and the quality assurance, again, the workers get those opportunities. And I'm saying to you, where it was going in the beginning was, currently, many people, when we were here, they said that they weren't satisfied. The Barbados Mass Transit Authority, which is the new body we are creating, is going to be responsible for regulating all that service. Give me a second. It's going to be responsible for regulating the times the buses are on the road, whether it is minibuses, ZRs, the former Transport Board buses, taxis, everything. So that they regulate to ensure that if you want this permit, you have to be able to commit to delivering services to these areas that we will determine. You don't get to handpick. These are the areas we determine you have to work to make sure the same people in St. Lucie when we were here in the north that said they couldn't get service after a certain time, the Mass Transit Authority will guarantee that the service is much improved by being able to regulate with teeth, because currently there's no teeth. By being able to regulate with teeth to allow us to determine where the routes are, who gets the route, and so on. So the people will get a better service as opposed to less quality of service by the route that we're going. That's the point I wanted to make to you.
Thank you very much. And just take it as a joke. Yes, I must stop at D because I believe in democracy.
All right. Thank you. We're going to move on in the interest of time. We're going to have Dolores Thompson to make a contribution. Remember to bring ideas. Her topic is
A blessed good night. Sex protocol has been given. I will go right in. My name is Dolores Thompson, Melvin Hill, St. Joseph. I'm here to talk about the water outage in St. Joseph. Well, parts of St. Joseph. Lower Parks, Parks Road, Fruitful Hill, Melvin Hill, and St. Sylvan's Village. We are out of water since almost 2 months. My problem is that the truck, when the driver come down, nobody know. They don't blow the horn, not nothing. You could be in your kitchen, the next you hear a roll, and then on evenings. Because people go to work on mornings. So who at home during the day, the morning time, can get their water. Then it should come back on the evening time for those that coming in from work. That is what I would like to see happen. And since I'm on the water thing, is the government still have the project to assist the pensioners with the water tanks? Pardon?
It is indicating yes to both questions.
Pardon?
Yes to your last question in particular.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And you can perhaps make contact with the Barbados Water Authority to make the necessary application.
Well, I asked that question before I come here, so that's why I'm asking it here. The next thing is our roads.
Before you go to the roads, there are 2 senior officers from the Barbados Water Authority here. Before you leave tonight, make sure you speak to one of them.
Name?
And make sure she sees you.
You? Okay, thank you. All right, my next thing is on the roads. Well, Mr. Humphrey, you just jump into the bandwagon. Thanks very much for the Melvin Hill Bridge start and the Erie Hill Bridge. We are grateful for that, the start. But I would like to suggest that Fruitful Hill Road start about 3 times and had to stop. I would like the Fruitful Hill Road to be pushed off again, Merle, so it become a shortcut for us that live in Lower Parks, Fruitful Hill, St. Sylvan's Village, Parks Road, and Melvin Hill. Right now, we have a long journey to town. We have to go to 2 routes. We have to leave home from Melvin Hill, go to Bizets, go down Springfield, up George Guys Hill, up George River, onto Horace Hill, and you either take the left or the right. You go to Chimborazo, Batchberry, or you go the Bashable Road, which is all down to get to town. Or we have to leave home, go to Bizets, go to Chalky Mount, go to Coggins, go to Bruceville, where the other bridge is doing now, go up Springfield, go into St. Thomas, go up Hyman Hill, go down Sharp Hill, go in Jackson, go in Warrens to get to town. That is a long journey. I took that journey 3 times today. It is really long. And you have to burn a lot of gas. You have to burn a lot of gas or diesel. It depends upon the transportation. So I would like to say Fruitful Hill do that. It could be a shortcut for us till the Melvin Hill Bridge finish. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dolores, for your contribution. Are we going to move on? In the interest of time, we're going to Melissa Ford for her ideas. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Melissa Ford.
Good night, everyone. Protocol already being established. I really want to address two things. This evening. The first one being the re-establishment of the Scotland District Authority. The reasons for that would be it would ensure specialized planning. It would prevent unregulated development in terms of housing in high-risk areas, having houses in high-risk areas, and also it would promote safer housing and infrastructure, as it would address landslides and flooding and all of that. I think that bringing back the Scotland District Authority will ensure there is not a fragmented approach in terms of managing the difficulties in that area. Now, I recall, I think it was late last year, we had a lot of rain. It was the then Attorney General, who was our Minister, Honorable Dale Marshall. A call was made, I got the information, and I went to Spa Hill. Now, I believe y'all know how down there is. Spa Hill is really, really bad. And I believe that if this authority was in place, that there are 2 new houses in that area. And you can stay up and see all the gully just going down the hill. All right. My next point would be, my next idea, I think we can take a pause here for 1 second, a few seconds. Imagine turning an abandoned space into one of the most productive and visited hubs in St. Joseph. Just take a few seconds. So what am I speaking about? I have some notes here on my phone as well. Quickly. So what am I speaking about is the Andrews Sugar Factory. Since Erie Hill has been repairing, I have to pass that road. I have to pass Andrews. I can either go that way or I can go, Lane Bridge is now finished. Either way. But sometimes Andrews is short, it depends on where I'm coming from. Coming up to Andrews Factory, it's a sore sight. We have tourists that traverse this area every single day going to Bathsheba. They stop and take pictures by the mural by Paris Hill. They pass there every single day doing their tours. Now, I propose transforming the factory into a multi-purpose development hub for Barbados, whereas you can have an agro-processing facility, a skills training center, and a cultural and tourism village. I believe that why this matters, it will create jobs, support local farmers, and it will also give young people like myself real opportunities. Most importantly, as I just said, tourists traverse that area already, so it's not like we would have to, get tourists to come to the area, no. So this would give them a reason to stop, spend money, which would in turn bring money directly into the community and by extension, the economy. So we can also, have a cafe inside there. We can also take it a step at a time. Start with one area, whether it be the skill training area or the agriculture, persons in the community bringing their produce to sell at the area. Just like how Hamas is, all right. So I think that we can use that opportunity for growth and helping to develop St. Joseph. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. You'll be heard. We now have another contribution from Monique James. Monique James.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Monique James, Checker Hall, St. Lucie. I'm here with 3 concerns. I just want to address the teacher who spoke about, just to give a correction to you, when you said this person's under 45, but I just want to make links. In 2008 to 2018, I count that lost ages for youth development in this country. And persons at that time, between those years of 10 years, would have been between 9 and 15. And add 10 years to that, they'd be 25, and those are the ones who are committing the crime. Because during 2008 and 2018, being at that time a youth worker, our programs were revamped tremendously. I mean, they were cut. We were not engaging children in the community level. So persons who are under 25 now, majority of the persons who are committing crimes, were not engaged in national youth development in that year. So I just want to give a little correction, because if you look at statistics, you will realize, and I am a youth worker from back then, and I know the work that I would have done, and during those years, those are not the persons who are involved in criminal activity now. So I'm just saying, they just want to correct you on that. So moving forward, on youth development, I would like to find out for St. Lucie, what are the plans? Because I know that I know that persons are supposed to be engaging our young people. And I would like that we have more consultations, because persons come up with projects, and they come up with really good ideas, but sometimes it's not from the people. I think that I would like to see persons walking through St. Lucie and engaging my young people again, so that when projects are delivered, you will get the participation because it came from the people. Part number 2, it's heavy on my heart, especially because I grew up going to River Bay. And seaweed, I know it's no longer just a national, it's regional, it's international now, right? And I understand the times that we're living in. However, there's been years over and over and over, and we're seeing our beaches, which is part of the product that we sell, being destroyed. I just wanted to know, I'm not really a scientist or anything, but I was saying that if we can put a net at the mouth of River Bay, so that at least, because Island Safari comes through St. Lucie, people can no longer walk down anymore. You can't cross over, and River Bay has a rich culture for me. It's where I had a lot of Sunday picnics. It's where I went with my mommy. Whenever my family came from overseas, she would take all the children to bathe in that stream in River Bay. And it's hurting me to see, because at the end, to save it, we got to use the caterpillars and stuff and digging away and destroying all the time. So I do appreciate, and honestly I do appreciate that things do take time, and it is not just something that we can control out the blue. But I would like to see some temporary measure to protect not the loan, but one of our major parks in St. Lucie, because I live in Checker Hall, and when I'm driving Allendale, you can still smell the seaweed all on that road, and I'm heading down to Checker Hall and I smell it. So I'm saying, give relief somehow. I know it's being cleaned currently, but if there's something that can be done that we could bring back life and get movement still in St. Lucie. And finally, I've recognized Archers Bay. We don't have garbage cans out there. And persons go and they enjoy the location and stuff, but there's no way to store the garbage. There are cans that were put there from PIC and another organization, but if it's possible that we can have the collection of the garbage, put it as part of the trail. And I've been driving along our bus stops, and I know years ago we used to have the little baskets on the bus pole to collect the garbage. If anyone driving, you realize as we get to bus poles, when you get the bus stop, persons are socializing there, but then they're eating. Unlike me that will put the garbage in their bags, they're dropping it, especially there by Welch's. And they're coming across the highway there by Cyan Hill, and there by Mile and Quarter sometimes. I mean, the young man that cuts the grass, he cleans it up a lot. But I'm saying that if we can go back to have some kind of collection or some bin at our bus stops that people could also drop their litter and preserve our country. As I said, we're on a mission, right? So I would like to really preserve St. Lucie, and then to have some youth development in St. Lucie, and our collection. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. And I agree with you on the youth aspect of working in St. Lucie. Actually, the youth commissioner for St. Lucie, I met with her a few weeks ago, and we are definitely going to do some more projects. One of the things about St. Lucie, and the MP knows that he spent some time up here over the last few years, is that when you engage persons in St. Lucie, the whole community comes out, regardless of if that's a fete, if it's football, if it's cricket, whatever it is. So one of the things, are some of the projects that we want to do are more community engaging, whether that's cricket, whether that's football, whether that is engaging, however we can engage the community at large, and especially our young persons. In particular in Archers Bay, I know that we are now going on to a project to develop some more vending spaces at Archers Bay, because some of the youngsters have been asking. The youngsters in Crab Hill, you know, they're into football. In Northumberland, we know that they're into farming and so on. So we are definitely going to look into doing some more community-based projects, and as you said, rubbing shoulders with the young people in St. Lucie.
Thank you, Shane. I just wanted to say thank you, Monique, for raising the issue of the sargassum. Since I've become Minister of the Environment, this is something that has been playing on my heart and my mind almost every day. I raised it at Cabinet a couple of weeks ago with Prime Minister and the rest of the team, because in doing a number of the site visits to a number of the locations, we recognize it's not just River Bay, but it's across the northern parishes, across the south and southeast of the island, that is primarily affected by the influx of sargassum. What seems to have been one of the challenges is that our focus has primarily been on, I think, not only how to do the collection of the sargassum and remove it from the shores, but one of the things I think we have been focusing in the direction of is how to make back the money if we actually go the route of trying to create an industry. And I think that in our discussions at Cabinet, one of the things I tried to alert is that to them too, is that I think that when you see the devastation that is taking place in areas like River Bay, I think our focus now has to be very clinical in terms of dealing with the offshore collection of sargassum. We have done an excellent job since 2018, putting measures in place to be able to collect sargassum manually. So we have about 134 workers working across the coastline to collect the sargassum. It is moved by trucks. It is moved by trucks to a particular location, and it is stored in that location. And for all of these years, we haven't seemed to figure out how we are going to move the sargassum to either a product that we can use and make money from, or simply be able to stop it from coming to the shores. We have explored different options. People from all over have been coming, from Mexico, in Grenada. People have been trying their best to find across CARICOM a solution to this problem. And I think that we are a bit closer now, and certainly we will discuss it at Cabinet very shortly, but we are looking at being able to explore the offshore collection of the sargassum. This thing is affecting our fisher folk. It is reducing the catch that the fishermen are being able to catch off island. There is experience outside of Barbados in terms of being able to use large ships in some cases to be able to collect and harvest the sargassum and be able to use some other technology to be able to turn that into something that can be used whether in fertilizers, biofuel, or other means. And I think our attention now has to be on mapping with the technology that is available to us where we need to position those types of vessels offshore to stop it from coming into the island. River Bay is particularly unique because, as you said, it has the mouth, it's literally a bay, And we are seeing in Concept Bay as well as Skeets Bay, we're having serious difficulty being able to clean. I had the opportunity to get some drone footage of the area of River Bay, for instance, and it's not just the area where you drive around the roundabout and you see the sargassum, but both of the inlets in that area are for several miles pretty much clogged with the sargassum. And for those who have been there when we've been trying to clean, what you will recognize is that as you stir up the sargassum that has been lying there for several months and years, you end up with the gases and stuff which people then end up inhaling. And that is why I'm suggesting that we have, in terms of my idea, I think we have to move to now aggressively trying to get the expertise on island to be able to map how do we find ways to stop it from coming on island, while at the same time trying to deploy the necessary resources to be able to clean those beaches and to restore places like River Bay and Concept Bay and Skeets Bay and Oystins and Silver Stand back to their glory days. Because I too spent a lot of time at those beaches picnicking. We have done an excellent set of work in the botanical gardens, building out a space for the central areas. But when you stand at River Bay and you see tourists and locals coming up there, or you go to Bath and you see the dismay on people's faces, I believe the time has now come for that urgency from us as government to be able to do whatever we can to be able to put the resources there to stop that influx of the sargassum coming to our shores. And I will say as well that this year, the blooms are expected to be even bigger than they have been in the past. We're already seeing in the early part of the year significant blooms coming to the shores, and of course it is impacting, you know, the enjoyment and the recreation of everybody, all of us who enjoy that area. So I hope that once we're able to confirm as a cabinet what we will do in terms of the resources, that we can move to expedite being able to not only stop it coming coming into the near shore, but certainly long term being able to find a use or the number of uses that clearly are available to us to be able to look at sargassum as well. So
it's in a really bad shape in St. Lucie, but that's been taken care of. What I would like to see going forward is closer communication with the residents. I'm not confident based on what I've been hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, the minister probably can get a chance, not the minister, the representative may get a chance to tell me different, but I think there's a lack of stronger communication. So it's a suggestion. I don't see why in 2026, with so many resources in each parish, that there's not some sort of, let's say, committee or a pool of resources from each parish that could take some off the work off the representative hand. Many of them are engaged in, you know, ministries, etc. I would like to see the government look at the possibility of engaging so many of the resources that Barbados have in every parish. I know years ago they had something called a parish council. Maybe that could be sort of a model, but modernized. So that's my first suggestion. The other thing, you just mentioned these places in Barbados of interest that many tourists visit. And one that you didn't mention that I haven't heard is a low-hanging fruit. It's a place called Little Bay, St. Lucie. Incidentally, the road and the bridge has to be passed to go to Little Bay. Little Bay has one of the most geological interests of the whole island. There's a natural arch there. There's a wave-cut platform. There's blowholes. And every day, people visit. The safari jeeps, they are constantly passing my house. And they go around, there's no facilities for sanitation. There's not even a vendor, no concessions, nothing. You can't even get a bottle of water. And I understand, you know, the tourists come from south, they want to lounge around to St. Lucie, there's nothing. The road is horrible. And for that sort of, you know, physical feature that is so well visited, I would like to ask the government over the next 5 years, these things will happen overnight, I do get it. Put that on your list of things to look at. Have the Little Bay, Pike Corner area develop in a way that the tourists can come there. They can sit off and have some natural drinks. We can involve the local population, you know, residents, to look at, you know, village tourism, because there's a lot of low-hanging fruits here in Pike Corner. Okay, so those were the two issues. The third one is of a more general concern to Barbados, and I want to address this specifically to the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security. I don't know if he's here, but it's the issue of security. Sometimes it's good to look at the jungle from outside the jungle. Because when you're within, you don't see things necessarily clearly. I've been looking at my country from abroad, and what some of our fellow Caribbean islands have experienced over the years, we are experiencing now with the violence. It is not an issue only for the police force. I want to remind Barbadians that our security is the interest of everybody. And yes, I understand that people are now scared to talk. I live in a country where we're going through that as well. And I understand that people are concerned more with their security than what is going on around the island. Everybody wants three things: food, shelter, security. Maybe spirituality, but that's another conversation for another time. I'm asking the government, Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security over the next 5 years to look at reinventing the Barbados Police Service. And I say that because I don't believe that the Barbados Security Service is equipped to manage a rapidly changing Barbados. It's not something that can happen in a year or two. It might be a 10-year project, but it's something that needs to be done. Unfortunately, we saw this coming. When I say we, I was involved in law enforcement. I saw it. And it's unfortunate that the loss of the streets to the gangs is something that could have been prevented. The gangs now are not new, but they're always under control. And it's not only the issue of the Barbados Police Service, but the Barbados Police Service can instill security. It can be a lot more robust and a lot more effective. And there are a lot of people, both within the force and outside the force, that can make contributions, including professional organizations. I am saying this, the Barbados Police Force is not equipped in its present structure to manage the state of crime on the island. There needs to be new techniques, more support, including more salary. There's no incentive to anyone to join the police service in 2026 based on the salary. Some people have thoughts, well, Barbados don't make that much money. No, the Barbados Police Service has to be looked at over the next number of years. It will attract people, with ability, people with, scholarship. But in its present form, we're trying to function in a modern society with a police force that's structured on the past and is riddled with political interference and political allegiances. I see it for myself, so I speak firsthand. And it's very sad, because we should not be in a position where guys are openly walking around with guns. I mean, that's something you would think twice in the past, to walking around so blatantly and open up gunfire in a mall. So my appeal is that it's something the national security should look at, and including security services as well. It has to be a holistic approach to security. And it's not going to be overnight fix, but it's something that should be looked at over at least within this next 10 years. That's my contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. We are very much in the process of the restructuring of the Barbados Police Service. I'll leave it at that from the point of view of making it more appropriate. We take for granted that we have a service that is 191 years old and therefore has to be brought in with a lot of its systems, a lot of its operating procedures into the 21st century fully. I've spent more time in the last few months working with the relevant ministers and the police in trying to make this happen. And you would note that about 18 months ago, we took a decision to be able to regrade the detectives and the special branch even in advance of the rest of the public service, because effectively we were losing all of the officers out of uniform, the detectives wanting to go back into uniform because of the disparity in pay. I expect that the regrading report for the entire public service should come to us soon. I anticipate that after that initial report is received, there will be discussions with the various unions, and I anticipate that the appropriate regrading across sectors, there are valid cases for police, for nurses. I mean, we can make cases for a number of critical services that are needed in order for this country to function properly. And the government is very much aware that in many instances, we need to do better within the public service. But as you know, we had first to stabilize the economy and to ensure that we have the capacity to be able to sustain the numbers that we employ and to be able to give them decent living and affordable living. So look forward for that. With respect to a lot of the methodologies that the police are using, technology is key, and we are also ensuring that both from a technology perspective and also from a corporate structure, I've had to reinforce in the police that you can't have an organization of 1,300 people plus the non-police people for whom you're responsible and not have a proper director of human resources. You can't have a $200 million budget roughly and not have a proper director of financial services. So we've been working with them trying to get that together. I'm aware of a number of policy initiatives, including civilianization of some of the roles that have come to us as National Security Council, and those are being implemented. And I have indicated we've benefited for the better part of the last 9 months, and I want to thank the British government and Secure, the Prime Minister, for sending the retired chief officer from Merseyside, who only retired last year, and who has been working on the issue with us of the restructuring and the refocusing of some areas. Our magisterial districts and our police station districts go back to 1956. I've said to them our estimates this year, that has to change. And that, quite frankly, this disparity between a District A with 100,000 people and a District F with how much, Gregory? About 8,000, 7,000? Can't work. So we're doing that. The new police station will start at 6 Roads very shortly. And we have the one at Old Town to start. We have identified a location for the old Black Rock police station, and only today they came to me with the price of the land, and that will be down in Deacons. And we have obviously to redo, Minister of Finance looking at me, but don't mind. We have to redo the one at Oystons as well, which we considered a new plant, but a new plant is now almost 50 years old because that was opened in the early 80s, I believe, by Brees and John. So rest assured that every single day we are focused on this. But I do want to say something, and I will repeat it, and you're going to swear that I'm a stuck record. The government's policies will continue to do what we have to do to modernize. The police, in whom I have confidence, will continue also to do their job. Can we improve? All of us can improve. But the major, major, major lifting that has to be done if we are to be successful in this country is who? I want you all to answer me. Is who? Us. Us. And I maintain, Ian spoke about morals and commandments and things earlier. That is critical. But at the end of the day, a child should not be learning the 10 Commandments in a school first. Tell me where the child should be learning the 10 Commandments. And if they're not learning it at home, then they need to learn it from the godparents or the grandparents or the neighbor. Because until we take responsibility for all of us, we're not going to be able to stabilize and secure this country in a way that we would like. And this is a difficult decision. In the last 2 weeks, it's not just Barbados. Name me how many countries in the Caribbean had problems in the last 10, 12 days. So we're dealing with a systemic issue, and we're dealing with the fact that access to guns, as I've said over and over, has created a difficult situation. And when you really think about it, gunpowder allowed a handful of people to do what in Africa? So that we have to be able to be firm in our law enforcement. We have to be able to be nimble in our policy making. We have to be able to be supportive in the resources. But with all of that, if we do not have the majority of households, population, families playing their part, I am telling you that we will be fighting a Sisyphean struggle. In other words, as we go up, we're coming back down. We go up, we're coming back down. And that is because too many people are still prepared in this country to turn a blind eye to the source of funding, or the source of gifts, or the source of their ease and comfort. And these are the difficult discussions that we must have as a country, because if you see a child come home with a gold chain that you didn't give it, where did they get it from? Bree St. John taught me as a young girl coming into public life, never look at anybody and envy them or be jealous of them. You see them walking and stepping tall, but you don't know what they're doing to be able to step tall. You don't know who over them, under them, directing them, or whatever. And I want to remind us of that, because we live in a world, regrettably, where the access to technology causes, and this is part and parcel of the problem that the tech companies are facing, particularly with children and teenagers, create unrealistic expectations and sometimes aspirations. And therefore, people are living that out in ways that we have to be able to have serious conversations. The old people used to tell us, you can't have champagne taste and Moby pockets. How many children you think know that statement nowadays? But why not? If you know it, why children don't know it? You understand? And y'all may say that I like to use a lot of sayings, and I think that I old. It is that the sayings get the message through immediately. So if I tell you many hands make light work, bag, Santi, and I can do so and lift it up and want to know what else to carry. If I tell you Moby pockets and champagne taste, what are you trying to tell you? That there are certain things that you got to live within your means on. Now, the system that we have has opportunities for everybody to lift themselves up. And that's one of the beauties of a post-independent Barbados. But somehow or the other, there are still some people who are not getting that message and who are prepared to turn a blind eye without recognizing that as much as they enjoy the fruits that are being given to them, they may end up banging the belly and hollering when somebody close to them then finds themselves either dead or in prison. And these are the difficult conversations we need to have, community by community, family by family. If you see or know that somebody coming in and hiding a gun all the time, call the police. The police are not going to charge you if you're reporting a gun and bringing it in a way that, unless you are holding that gun for possession. And we've said that if you want an intermediary to validate what you're saying, find the priest and you and the priest go and talk to the police. If it is that you're frightened, I understand, then find a way to talk with us and we will find a way to help you out of the program or the problem. But what cannot happen is people seeing things and doing nothing, saying nothing, and then be surprised at the outcome. This is not what we want, but it is not yet bad enough that we can't pull it back. But if we are to be successful in pulling it back, it's not dependent on the police alone or other law enforcement alone. It's not dependent on the government policy alone. It is dependent on the people in this country, all of us in this room, all of us not in this room. And that is what it comes down to. And if we have to repeat ourselves day by day and week by week and event by event and sermon by sermon and assembly by assembly, then that's fine. Repetition is what brings about persuasion. Repetition is what brings about change of behavior. But what is not acceptable is what is happening now. And I'm not sure that there are simple solutions, Ian. Flogging is just one manner and means of discipline. I think that the important thing is that whether persons decide to hit somebody on the hand or withdraw from them other benefits or do other things that relate to a form of discipline, what is important is discipline and holding people accountable. And I'm not going to, I don't necessarily like it, but I don't think that flogging ever kill anybody either. So, you understand? But by the same token, different folks, different strokes. And there are a lot of people, Colin, you know, who didn't get flogged, but who got discipline. And who were equally brought up, anchored in values, because the family took time to make sure that those children were rooted in the values. So I really do hope that these opportunities for what I call family discussions, and I have a conference call in 40 minutes, Angie, so I'm going to leave you shortly. One last meeting for the day. But I really do hope that we recognize that these opportunities are not intended to be onerous for anybody, from ministers to public servants to those of you coming. It's intended to allow us to have family discussions. Family discussions by parish. It is intended for us to hear the things that are wrong. I hear Dolores with the water problems up in Melvin's Hill, sorry. I hear the issue with the Pike Corner Bridge. I hope you also accept the explanation that Santia and Kirk gave with respect to the fact that, regrettably, the bridge was started without the proper designs, etc., trying to rush to help a situation. But sometimes when you rush to help, you're going to end up doing worse. So that is why it was paused, to get the designs right, because the investment must last for a significant period of time. I've heard all of the discussions from Speightstown Sparkle and the need for recognition of the persons who helped clean up, and we certainly want to be able to do that. The cabinet will tell you that I'm obsessed with cleanliness and I'm obsessed with tidiness, because Barbados must be clean, and as we've heard, and green, must be clean and beautified. And that makes our lives easier once we do the initial heavy lifting. We've heard you with respect to the buses and the routes and the transport. We've heard you with respect to the potholes that are still there, but as Santia and Kirk told you, the trucks are there and the deployment of the teams is beginning to happen. And the truth is, I laughed and said to the others just now when somebody talked about a bridge that finished, I said, well, people do acknowledge that we do finish stuff. So the bridges that have finished, the problem is that this country did not maintain any bridges for 40, 50 years. And a house or a structure that is not maintained will eventually do what? Fall away, erode. So we're not where we want on everything, but we are making progress in the right direction. And I thank you for also contextualizing the time, because to change an institution that is 192 years shortly takes time. It's like a cruise ship. A cruise ship can't just turn so like a Moses, you understand, or a speedboat. It takes space and time. And with the Barbados Police Service, we're looking at recruitment, we're looking at retention, we're looking at restructuring of the training programs, we're looking at civilianization, we're looking at expedited promotion and officer cadet programs, we're looking at technology. We have a new process going forward with the new E911, which will allow us to integrate police, ambulance, and the various other services, fire service, in a way that then makes sense. All of this we're doing and spending tens of millions of dollars on. And we don't necessarily speak about it all the time because you're so busy doing the work. But above all else, we are also looking at the regrading of police officers, because like you, the issue must be not only attraction, but retention. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Yeah, I believe strongly as well that children, you must link the actions of children to consequences from early. If you don't do that, they'll never understand or respect the consequences. This is why some people, when they're charged and, to go to prison, it is a badge of honor. But if from very early we let them understand that there are consequences to their actions, they'll learn from early. That's my 2 cents. And I didn't say flog, but flogging doesn't kill. Because I'm still living. Okay, our next contribution is coming from Austin Husbands. Remember to keep it as concise and clear
Don't
as
worry,
possible.
I'm already short. Thank you. Let me welcome you to St. Peter again. And I hope that when you came that road, you didn't drop in the pothole in front of St. Peter Bay nor Schooner Bay. I want to start with a thank you. And Madam Deputy PM knows why I'm saying thank you. Because I couldn't get any assistance at one point from my area. I fought, and she helped me fight. And like two good friends, we got the job done. Thank you again for that chasm that we had in my gap. I'm not going to go over what the others said about St. Peter. However, what is my concern? Many years ago, we had a journalist from the nation, a guy called Roy Morris, that used to spend a lot of time by the traffic lights in Spikestown, monitoring the PSVs. And he wrote copious articles about these PSVs. And if he went back in the business today, he would have a lot of information. He would have a lot of material. The same things that were happening then at the junction of the K&R Husbands Highway and Church Street are happening now. So I'm hoping that we can get the Transport Authority, when it's set up, to put all these buses, every single one, ZR, B, BM, whatever it is, all under a schedule. Because at the moment we have sometimes 4 buses leaving the terminal in Spikestown, going to Bridgetown. Absolute chaos. And sometimes they go around the Sibyl-Licott roundabout, around and around and around. And one coming this way has to stop because you give way to the person who's coming from the right. And they've been doing that foolishness for a long time. I'm sorry that Roy Raphael is not here now, because I tried to contact him a long time ago, and he was saying that it's not all the fellas, but let me tell you something. If 4 out of 10 do it, that is as good as if all were doing it, because this is only a little town, a very, very small town. So I'm hoping that they will all be put on a schedule so that we don't have that chaos. And then the public, the traveling public, will know at what time they can get a bus. So you'll get a bus every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, going in whatever direction that you need it to go. Now, I've been involved in tourism for enough years. We understand, and we're looking forward to when the beaches project starts. I've asked before that mangrove to the south be maintained. But I also understand that a road is going to be cut to go up through there by the apartments before the boat. I'm hoping that that road will not impede on the little bit of land to the north of the Mohica playing field, and that I hear a lot of talk about young people, but I look around here to see one or two of my schoolmates from primary school. And I know if I ain't that young, they ain't that young either. I'm not calling any names. Roy's the same school you went to. Not that long after me. But people that have lost us a little bit of hair, we also like to go and sit in the sun sometimes to, get a little tan there. Sorry, bye. But we like to go and, sit there, and we would hope that a section of that area, we'll just have a little wooden bridge over the little pond that comes over there, that we can go there and that we will have a little recreational area that we can enjoy. The other thing is, I know some time ago we were told that the beaches on this side would all be taken care of, starting from, I think, Half Moon Fort, all the way to Gibbs Beach. There is a lot of erosion that is taking place. And it upsets me that I actually hatched plants, got permission from NCC to put plants on the beach, And some lovely lady complained about it to NCC, and they took up the plants that L. Austin B. husbands planted. They did not even tell me to come back for them so I could give them to somebody else. I don't know where they tossed them. And the excuse was that the turtles would not be able to bite through the roots when they come to lay. And I suggested to the young lady who said that she tried putting her finger into the mouth of a turtle. And that hopefully one of my good friends would reattach the stub. Turtles have a system. We need to have beaches for them to lay on. Right there in Sand Street, there were houses on that beach. In 6 months, the guitarist Bertie Connell, God rest him in his grave, used to live on that beach. Other houses were there and shops. Not only Brady's a commune, but they had other shops along the Tress and some other people that had shops along there. And we need to have these beaches restored, but we also need to do what the government has been talking about, what your government has been talking about, and that is planting trees. Somebody used some fancy word, reforestation or something like that. By norm is planting trees by the bay to hold the sand so that when the sand, because sand will naturally accrete once there are tree roots there to hold it. So that is one of the areas I want to look at. We are talking about tourism, having some place to, to enjoy. And the beach, whether we talk about tourism as all kinds of fancy things, the truth is that the beach is still one of the biggest attractions. The sun, the sand, and the sea. And we can only attract people to a beach if there's a beach. Thank you very much. I've been short.
Thank you for your contribution. We'll move on. Points taken. We move on to Roger Moore.
Good night, Madam Prime Minister. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. My point is the water problems in St. Joseph, and I'm going to get straight to it. If you have the tankers making visits when no one is at home, is a point that's lost, right? Why not reintroduce the community tanks? That way, the residents that are not at home, when they come home, they have access to water, right? And I believe that's a solution, because you're not getting water from the taps, you're not getting water from the tankers, you're not even seeing a tanker, right? St. Joseph, yeah, Harlington's Cliff, St. Joseph. Yes, please, right? And the thing is this, if you have the community tanks, even if they're coming full, the tanks, those residents are coming home 5, 6, 7 o'clock, at least they have access to water. Because if a tank coming out, you have 4 or 5 buckets. 20 buckets down full, tank gone, you still want more water? So reintroduce the community tanks. That's one. Number 2, we talk about community tourism, but you cannot promote community tourism by sitting behind the desk. You have to come in the community and see what's happening in the community and who's making this tourism thing happen in the community. And I come from an area that believes in community tourism, which is Harlington's Cliff. And every day we have tour buses, we have island safaris, great influx of visitors, but the problem is the road. 2 vehicles cannot pass on the road at the same time, right? So why not somebody from the ministry come out and see what is happening, see the roads, see what needs to be done, and come out and talk to the residents that actually involved in the community tourism, right? And get the ideas. You cannot implement community tourism from behind a desk. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Good contribution. We'll move on to Anderson Rollock.
Good night, Madam Prime Minister, to the high table, to everyone here. Community tourism seems to be a recurring topic tonight, so I will just speak to these few areas where that is concerned in St. Lucie. And I also want to respond to Monique. I would have worked with her over the years with the committee that I led. I was involved in community work for 20 years. So I'm giving testimony to the work she has done in St. Lucie with the youth. Just to say, unfortunately, Monique, with regards to the garbage cans at Archers Bay, some of us don't like nice things because some were there, and some people believe that they like them more than the community that needed them and took them up. But you know that we would have placed Archer garbage bins in the area. The first thing I will speak to is about ideas. So I'm going to just give a short background, won't be long, and then my idea. The abandoned Harrison's Point Lighthouse in St. Lucie, the youngest of the lighthouses in Barbados, built in 1925. One of the most beautiful and picturesque sceneries that you can imagine. Up to 2022 and 2023, when I then led the St. Lucie's Parish Independence Committee, we undertook a community service there for those 2 years with regards to beautifying and bringing back that lighthouse to a state where it would have been more, cordial and enjoyable for people to come to. Now, I would have observed living in the area, the amount of persons and tourists that would make their way over there. But the road to the lighthouse was like a track per se, hard surface, marl, but overgrown. Through my committee back then, we engaged the services of a private contractor, free of cost to us as a community group. And he came in with his equipment and he leveled the road from the entrance to the point of the Harrison's Point facility straight to the lighthouse and clear back the bush on either side 6 to 10 feet. That's the first thing that he did. He then went to the lighthouse area and pushed away all the overgrown bush and trees that it would have been accessible. Then we came in with some community groups and we transformed the area to the point that the lighthouse was cleaned from top to bottom. And there's a very sound structure that is there, which is the old abandoned, the lighthouse keeper, his quarters is still there, the structure is still there. Pretty much just needs a roof and some windows. And you overlook part of the Caribbean, Atlantic, and Pacific Ocean. About 104 steps into the lighthouse, you go up to the top. When it was open to the public, and you could look from as far as the eyes could see across Barbados. We beautified that area, put down benches, planted trees. I must say with the help of our parliamentary representative, because he too, in his formative years, served on the St. Lucie Parish Independence Committee as a chairperson. We did all that work. The Barbados Port, they have a team that goes around to the various lighthouses that they clean and debush and so on ever so often. So we got the connections and we work with them. I'm saying we put on benches. I'm saying all that to say this. We did that as a community group. I went to a representative at the port and we presented a document in terms of the project that we did, everything we did, and we presented it. This is now 2026. Unfortunately, I can say that the lighthouse, the door to the lighthouse has been closed up because they would have reported that over time the debris and stuff, the rusting was falling and persons could become a danger to themselves. So the lighthouse is no more accessible to the public. And the area is becoming at times overgrown and so on. But the area where the road and stuff was cleaned up is still good. My idea is hopefully as another tourism focal point in Barbados, in St. Lucie, is for the revitalization or the reestablishment of the Harrison's Point Lighthouse, that it can be another tourism spot in Barbados because that area has loads of potential. Another area, we spoke about Archers Bay. We know that there's development coming there, and I'm hoping that we will see that in the not so distant future. And another area that I would like to see, because there's all different types of tourism, so we have heritage tourism. My idea, I'm advocating that the area by the St. Lucie's Parish Church, Now, the St. Lucy's Parish Church this year is 399 years old, same age as Bridgetown. As when Barbados was first established, you had about 6 parish churches. St. Lucy Parish Church was one of those. In the immediate area, you have the St. Lucy's Parish Church. You have the monument of where the old parish school was, right there. Right across the road, you have the birthplace of national hero, the Right Excellent Charles Duncan O'Neill. Across from there, over you have, back in the day, you call it the Mess House, the St. Lucy's Primary and the Dar Jordan Secondary School. Then across from the parish church, you have the old Fairfield factory, where it is the only octagonal-shaped chimney in Barbados. Then you have the Theodore Branca roundabout. He was the longest-serving parliamentarian in St. Lucy. And then just behind down there in Trents, you have, when it was established, the first solar voltaic plant in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, over 44,000 solar panels, and that place is kept under control by hundreds of black-belly sheep. My advocation is we're talking about heritage tourism, right there in St. Lucy, and that small hub to designate that area heritage tourism site, that when persons come, you see the tourists come, they go into the car park, and they peruse the church and so on. Lots of, as you would say, prominent Barbadians have been buried in the church cemetery. Just to mention one person, Auntie Olga. Some of us may not know her, but she was a very prominent social worker, a giver of people in Barbados. Her gravesite is right there, a nice tomb and everything preserved right there in the churchyard. So my suggestion, an idea, that point in St. Lucy, that, as I would say, a hub, the roundabout is a meeting point, be designated as a heritage tourism site with some adequate signage and so on, that persons can come in and visit and get some history about Barbados and St. Lucy. Thank you.
Point very well made, sir. Thanks for your contribution. We're going to move on. In the interest of time, we're going to go to Desmond Ford. Another young man.
Hi, good night, everyone. Same protocol have been established. I will begin to speak. Excuse my voice if it is hoarse, but that's because I having an eventful weekend. Basically, I came here to speak on 2 topics. Firstly, financial literacy. This came about merely because to give a background who I am, Desmond Ford, I came from Erie Hill, St. Joseph. Currently, I am an accountant. I was in accounts for basically over 6 years. And being in accounts, I have not just witnessed the gap or basically the unawareness of financial literacy, not just through the employees, but also regarding schools and children as well. I understand that government also understand that this is something that must be addressed because the government has already initiated some programs to address it. So I wanted to come here to speak about my initiative as well. My initiative is the St. Joseph Smart Savers Initiative. And this is basically to target the primary school children from a young age, from class 1 to class 4. The aim is that these children will be basically saving $1 a day, and this is going to basically be given back to them at graduation. This is important because as I grew up, my mom and my dad, they basically experienced the financial burden moving from primary school to secondary school. And I believe that this amount of money will basically help parents basically to address that issue. When they go into graduation, they will be given a check, approximately $1,000 from saving for the past 4 years, and this is going to help parents with that burden, with that financial burden. And also, it will be addressing the financial literacy because students and children will be basically having that mindset from early, let me save. Because when we go into school, we have the shops. We have other stores that children will be basically coming to spend money. And we understand that when they get older and they get money, all they will know is just to spend. All they are going to be seeing, and when they're having money, all they will be learning to do is just to spend. This initiative is going to combat that. Also, the money, when it's collected, it will be going to a credit union. This is because the credit union have a good interest rate where the money will basically not just sit on the account, but it will actually basically grow. So it will also help the parents and the children when it is given back to them. I am here today basically to ask the government in terms of my initiative, in terms of how they can basically be a part of it. I believe that it's not going to just help the children. As I said, it will also help the parents as well. Speaking on one of the initiatives, the government already have an initiative there where basically children will be given like 5,000. And when they get to the age of 18, 19, it will be given back. But if they do not know how to use or manage this money, that money that they will be given can be misused. And I believe that this initiative is going to complement one that is already there, which is going to give them the discipline that need to manage this money in a productive manner. There's also a budgeting aspect of the program where children are going to be asked the question, what do you want to do with this money when you get it? Separate your needs from your wants. And that is something that we learned when we got older. But that is something that children need to learn today. So that when they do get the age that they're going into the work environment and they get more money and they get the money that they want to now basically spend, they are already basically trained or basically experienced by asking themselves this question, what do I need to do with this money? How can I separate my needs from my wants? And that is a question that we should basically be teaching these children at early age, and we should not have to learn it when we actually now get put in the deep end, in the water, in the work environment. So that is basically one of my initiatives. My second initiative is something that I believe everyone here has already spoke about in many different ways. It's called the Village Connect. I grew up with my grandma, and I am extremely close to her. My other one have passed, but I was also close to her. And my grandma used to tell me stories that despite she never had, she never lacked. And because the village surrounding her always kept her afloat. And I believe that we have basically left our roots. We have gone away from the village, from the village mindset. And I believe that we need to go about there. I also say that also because when we see children, we cannot really talk to them as much because there's no village mindset. We need to go about there. And the Village Connect is going to help us as a village connect one and help us help each other. I have basically connected with some persons within my community in St. Joseph, and there was an issue where there are a lot of issues that basically are not being answered in a reasonable amount of time. And that is understandable because there is a bottleneck issue where there are a lot of problems and we are only going to the MPs to help. And with that being said, there are more demands for help regarding the resources to give the help. This program is to help us as a community and our villagers to basically get our problems resolved in a faster way. For example, if I know that I need help with food, but this person here basically good with in terms of cooking. So that is one issue that can help me. She probably needs help with light. I am actually learning how to be an electrician currently. We basically can connect each other, go back to the village mindset, but all it needs is coordination. That's what this program will do. Coordinate who needs help and also basically pointing out what person's strong points are and let us as a village help each other in a reasonable amount of time. It is basically a great deal of concern where there is a lady, we will not call her name, but there's a lady within the community who have been asking for help, but basically because of the amount of help that is being asked regarding the resources, it is not being given at a reasonable amount of time. And this program is basically going to address that. And I will also ask the government as well to basically ask if that is something that y'all would be willing to be a part of and help us build it out as well. Not just to help these children, but also help the community as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Desmond. Sorry. Do you have any concept paper, any notes so far on what it is you want for both of these programs?
Yes, please. So I have two proposals. Currently, the financial literacy program, that proposal is already fully built out. The reason being is that I am trying my best to get to every primary school in St. Joseph to basically connect with these children at a very early age, before, hopefully September, that we could start this, so that within 4 years, their graduation is not going to be the basic graduation. This is going to be a graduation where they graduate from education, but they graduate with the knowledge of financial literacy as well. And the parents will also be benefiting, because when they transition, which is the hardest transition, or the parent really deal with it from primary school to secondary school, this will be money to help with that foundation, help families across St. Joseph, and not just St. Joseph, across Barbados, that they can basically be in a position that they can not just help themselves, but help the children as well.
Lovely.
So yes, I have two proposals.
And the second one is also ready?
The second one is not as ready as the first one, because I'm
How much time
September.
do you need on that before you finish it?
Honestly, give me a month. Give me a month, I will have it ready for you.
Okay.
Well, completed.
I will make contact with you tomorrow. We'll make some.
Yes, please.
particular
Thank you very
arrangements.
much.
Okay,
Thank
no
you for your
problem.
time, everyone.
Desmond, if you don't mind, I don't know what to say. I am listening to you, and I feel such a sense of pride in hearing the way you've just delivered yourself. And
Yes, please.
in a time when we are dealing with so much, where we see images of young men doing the wrong thing, I just want to salute you for everything you've said.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
And to say to you, I think where Roy is going, and I know Senior Minister Simmons is going to lead in onto this, but I think your ideas are sound in terms of what you want to do, and I want to certainly encourage you to continue to speak in the way you're doing.
Yes, please.
And not just to speak, but to do what you're doing. Government, yes, I already messaged Corey Worrell, who I know is leading the financial literacy program, and I've asked him, I'll get your contacts, but I want you and him to perhaps sit down and speak, because while we are looking to the institutions, the banking institutions, to be able to assist on the financial literacy, I think young men like yourself, and I'm sure there are others like you that perhaps may not have had the opportunity to have a voice like this, but I think we need more persons coming forward to be able to help programs like this, to help pull some of the weight to get the information out there faster. So I think on behalf of everybody, I really want to salute you. Senior Minister, over to you, please.
Thank you, everyone.
Good evening, and I can only endorse everything that Santia said. You really touched me, and I am glad I stayed this late in order to be able to speak to you. Now, the truth of the matter is, all that you have said really has already been embraced by the Ministry of Commerce, and we have actually carried the financial literacy program to every public primary school. We also now want to expand it right across the private primary schools as well. It is also now into every secondary, public secondary school in Barbados. And I take your other point, which is the secondary point, not just the children, but how do you help the adults? Because the financial literacy issue must also be at that level of our community. And so therefore, we have already started to work with several business places in Barbados, and we are now looking to move it right through the communities. Now, what I would like to do, because I am on the same page as Santi in this regard, I think that I would want to be able to sit down with you and Corey Worrell, who is in charge of it, as she said, and to hear from you what your own understanding is, because you say you've worked out a little bit of a strategy.
Yes, please.
And our strategy could be molded with yours, because frankly speaking, I don't think we have all the ideas. But what we have done is we've come a long way. We got we got our booklets and so on. We have a curriculum endorsed by the Ministry of Education. In fact, it is now about to be used as a pilot in Guyana, because what we have done is now up and running, and they have an interest in doing something very similar. So rather than reinvent the wheel, they're coming to work with us. And also we want to go online, so that even when you may not have the book in front of you, you can pick up the phone or whatever else you may have, and in spare time or quiet time, you'll be able to do some of the courses and that type of thing. So it isn't that you're coming too late, but you may be able to help us put icing on the cake. And I would be very glad to have that type of conversation. So I am going to give you now, I can put this down, come and talk to you, give you numbers, how to contact me, how to contact Corey, and we're going to roll together. Good?
Yes, please. I just want to say thank you as well. The reason being is that everything that the ministry has already established is great. Financial literacy is a topic that theory alone is not sufficient. And that's where, as you said, we can come together, because my part is not the practical, where they are going to actually be hands-on experiencing financial literacy. And with your theory, I believe that they can complement each other to create a better new generation that are going to be financially ready for the hard times to come. Well, hopefully, no hard times, but for the times to come. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, we have one final contribution from Faith Holder. Another young person.
Good night to everyone. Protocol having been established, I would be very quick. Along with Desmond, we are actually the parish ambassadors for St. Joseph. So Desmond would have spoken on his part as an accountant. However, I'm going to speak on the nutrition and wellness part. I am a registered nutritionist, and I am very passionate about the topic. And I do believe, as the late Carmita Fraser would have said, food first. However, we still have to equip the public with the credible knowledge and resources in order to choose the correct foods that we know that they should eat. We know that Barbados is currently going through an NCD, non-communicable disease epidemic. We know government is really pushing a lot of resources in order to help combat that. However, I believe that the outpatient clinic there in St. Joseph as well should be a hub for a multidisciplinary team so that it can assist the patients in St. Joseph. I do not believe that people in St. Joseph should be going to other polyclinics in St. George or St. John or wherever else. I believe that they should still have access not only to the medical services, but also to nutrition services. And I believe the government has to engage more nutrition professionals, more registered nutritionists, more registered dietitians to get into the community, because primary health care is where it all starts. In the home is where it starts. In the community is where it starts. And I believe if we get the credible professionals to get into the community, it can definitely save government millions when it comes to tertiary health care. So that is my contribution.
Thank you very much. Well, we've heard a lot of contributions here this evening. I can see that the people of the North are very passionate about the North. I like the fact that we have our young people being involved and bringing some good things to the fore. We spoke of dealing with crime, traffic, education, sports, tourism, a lot of things. And, you know, I'm happy that at least we had people who were prepared to come and speak of the things that are affecting them. Of course, we hear a lot about the grievances, right? About the grievances. But the reality is that we want to hear ideas always, ideas as well, so that we can have solutions to the problems that we face. We are not perfect. But I think that as a country, we as Barbadians, we care for this country that is our home, and we need to continue to do all that we can do in the interest of moving the country forward into a future that is, you know, sometimes when you think about where we are in this world, it changes every single day. Things change every single day in this world, so we have to be mindful and prepare ourselves for the road ahead. And I'm glad that you all came out here this evening to make your contributions to help chart the future for Barbados. I look forward to more ideas forums. And the North, you can give yourselves a big round of applause for what you've contributed here this evening. Any comments?
So just quickly, again, let me thank everyone as well, as RPB has said, for the contributions. And also, I think on behalf of everybody, to thank you, RPB, for taking time out to do this and to show a different side of you. And I hope you are competing this year. But anyway, we'll leave that there. But again, I want to thank you all.
Write me a song. I probably get strong to write me a song.
I suspect you may be inspired by some of the ideas that you hear in this forum.
Yeah, actually, there were some good ideas. I think there were some that stood out. Because at the end of the day, it's okay to do something within a small area, but we need to look at things that can happen on a national scale. And I hope that for the next forum, we hear more things that can move the country forward as a whole.
So again, thank you, and until next time. Roy, do you have a date yet for the next
No
forum?
date as yet, but
Okay.
we definitely will be in St. John next month.
Okay, can you hear me? This is the first town meeting I've been to, and it's the best. I am so proud of my people. These young people, you know, you hear about the negative, never the positive, and the problems that we're going through right now in Barbados and everybody. But I'm telling, I don't know, I just can't express myself. My first time voting, my first time meeting here, the Prime Minister said, come back home. That's what I'm doing. I spent 54 years in the States. It's time for me to come back home. And I am so proud and happy.
Thank you very much. I wish you all a good night and get home safely.